Hello, everyone, and welcome back to round six of the CLOL East Championship.
And yeah, my name is Jamin.
I'm Karthik.
And what an exciting game we have today. Perhaps maybe the most exciting game as we go back to a classic, maybe the rivalry, UOFT versus Waterloo, Waterloo versus UOFT. Now, this is a matchup I've been excited to see for all week.
Yep, it's a clash of the Titans. Both of these teams are 5 and 0, leading their group, and today we're going to find out who's the actual leader of the group, who's going to come out on top between these two monsters of a teams.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, 5-0 on each team means that this game has a lot of stakes. The winner of this game, considering both their track records, probably will end up as the top of their group. So a lot on the line. Both of these teams need to bring their A game. They bring their best play, their best players, and their best drafts as well.
Yeah, and speaking of draft, let's get right into the action here as we've got UFT starting off on blue side and the Warriors on red side, starting off with some Talia and Ash bans.
Yep, and it looks like maybe potentially a Smolder ban going to come out as well. Obviously Smolder extremely high prio pick for the bot lane. Sometimes you don't want to play around that variable of an Elder Dragon
Yeah.
inevitably coming down on top of your team. So a ban out from the side of UFT as well, as we may potentially see some more bot lane bans or the focus on Cassante.
Yeah, Casante has been getting changes left and right, but he is a safe blind pick that you can pick into most situations. So getting that off the board so that the Warriors' red pick counter picks can be more useful.
Right, and things like Aatrox, are always available for
Hmm.
blind pick Aatrox. You can see picks like Yone come out in top, for some dominance. So there's a lot of flexibility in the top lane. I think Asante is always a variable you have to be wary for. And as we mentioned, Senna going to be banned out on the side of UFT as well for their final first round ban.
Yeah, Senna just brings out so much flexibility with like Nautilus, Tom Kench, or even some more weirder combinations that you can do with her passive mechanic. And it's actually Hui that gets banned out, maybe something that UFT has been cooking up that Warriors have been able to find. And Hui is honestly just a really strong character if you know how to play them. The early and mid game priority that he can bring, especially when he can wave clear with the QE, is just so strong. But yeah, speaking of strong early games, that's Karma right there.
Yeah, Karma undoubtedly the one of the number one mid laners of this meta, and also crazy flexible as well. If you, Karma can be obviously flex mid support, but if you cook a little bit, even can be
Mhm.
flex top sometimes. But with the Malignance build, it is absolutely one of the craziest mid laners, out of this patch. She does damage. She has so much utility late game, and she doesn't, fall off like she used to even before. So, a great first pick, and it looks like Warriors are going to be responding with the Orianna.
Yeah, and Warriors love doing this. In their past series, we've seen them just straight up first pick Orianna because it is just a safe blind pick that's okay to most things, and Warriors are comfortable playing around it.
Yeah, and I think definitely Orianna, one of those matchups. Into Karma, I think if you're playing something like an assassin, something that can
Mhm.
be easily poked out. Not the best time against Karma, so Orianna will be giving a little bit of stability to the side of Waterloo as Rakan is the next lock in here. A lot of champions that combo with Rakan, and obviously a lot of engage now drafted onto the side of Waterloo.
Yeah, versatility is the name of the game for them. They can really play any type of draft still, but Rakan, like you said, can be played with very heavy engage, some peel back style. But ooh, the Volibear, this is an exciting pick. The changes that have came to him
Hmm.
have made him so strong in the current meta, and UFT are taking advantage of it.
Yeah, and I think taking advantage of them, they are as top laners. Obviously, not the most blindable lane, but I think Volibear in this meta especially is one of those picks that can go even on these most lanes, especially with the buffs that they gave him. So definitely a wise choice to go for the Volibear, as we are going to be looking at what this bot lane is going to be for the UFT. Ezreal is the hover at the moment, and it looks like it's going to be Ezreal locked in. Now we can see potentially a Karma Ezreal bot lane. This does not
Mhm.
have to be a mid lane Karma pick. Even if it is very strong, I think Ezreal Karma, obviously one of those classic picks you do to have a lot of poke and priority in lane.
Yeah, it looks like there'll be just some of these classic bot lane pairings, right? The Ezreal Karma always able to be getting pushed in the early game, getting jungle prio maybe for them to invade with the Volibear, who is just loves to fight early game. While on the other hand, you got the lovers duo, the Xayah Rakan. They are not going to be able to get pushed too easily, but if they get some good ganks and get some good fights, the fighting potential is really strong with them.
Yeah, honestly, can't go wrong with Zyra. We see it even we've seen it since even last year. Last patch we've seen a
Mhm.
lot of Zyra picked, especially as one of those anchors for the team. Zaya obviously one of those characters that defines what an ADC should be. Has great self peel, has great damage,
Mhm.
and definitely a little bit of insurance for the late game as well.
Yeah, and when the Xin Zhao ban, Warriors are thinking the Volibear is going top, so they're going to try and get some junglers out of there. While for UFT, it looks like it is top because they're banning out some of those top lane. Not sure about counters, but Aatrox is
Yep.
just such a good pick for
Mhm.
inexhaustive that we just see it banned out against him so much of the time.
Yeah, and I think definitely, getting out that Aatrox ban, especially Aatrox is one of those characters that can build up small leads in lane and then eventually just pop the world ender in a team fight and then end up start like snowballing the game out of control. So, especially in the hands of inexhaustive, that's going to be a wise ban as we see an Ari ban coming out from Warriors. So it looks like Warriors do think this is going to be a support karma.
Yeah, and because they pulled out the Ezreal, which isn't the strongest ADC in the meta, but with some of these pairings like the Karma, it's just such a good lane that can give strong prio, means the Karma might just be going support. They want to get another, like Ari's actually been receiving some good buffs, and she's gotten a lot
Hmm.
stronger this patch too. So Warriors doing their research, recognizing that, while UFT banning out that Nocturne.
Yeah, and I think, like we mentioned, Ari is now has always been a strong blind pick, has been a strong laner, but I think she's even more of a strong, like the historical complaint about Ari that she has no damage, but especially with her Malignance Lich Bane build nowadays,
Mhm.
definitely a lot of potential coming out of the Ari as Warriors are looking to pick their jungler.
Yeah, and the Belvet is being hovered. I would love to see this locked in if they do. And there it is. Belvet really putting the carry gloves into the jungler here. You got some good CC and follow up with the Rakan. The Belvet's got to be proactive in the early game. Keep fighting with their ultimate if they want to succeed.
Yep, and Belveth definitely. We see, Warriors have drafted a comp with a lot of value, as we say. Orianna, Belveth, Zaya, all characters that have a strong lane presence, but also don't fall off in the late game. Obviously,
Mhm.
scale very well into the game, as it's gonna be actually a Gnar locked in for the side of UFT.
Yeah, so it looks like it's going to be the Volibear jungle. And honestly, I think that's a pretty good pick into the Belvet. Belvet really wants to fight and skirmish, but Volibear is so strong early that like you kind of just don't want to go near him.
Yeah.
So the Gnar is a great pick there in the top lane, really good blind. And following up with the Nautilus perhaps, so it might be that Karma mid.
Yep, it might be the Karma mid here, as we do see the Nautilus hover. And yeah, Nautilus is going to be picked to lock in here, so it's going to be Karma versus Orianna in the mid lane, I think, definitely, especially with Volibear. This is going to be Karma Volibear mid skirmishes are going to be insane, right? Especially into things like Orianna Velvet, who don't have as much prio, and it looks like Warriors, are opting for value, value, value. Ornn, Belveth, Zaya, Orianna. I think they're looking to, stabilize early game. Maybe not destroy early game, but stabilize in the early to mid game, and then hopefully win this game out with the value because Ezreal ain't getting through Ornn in the late game.
Yeah, of course. And you can see just two polar opposites in the styles of the different comps, right? You have Ezreal Karma, Volibear pushing, getting in your face early, while Warriors, they do want to fight it out a bit, but mainly scaling is that name of the game, where Orianna, Ornn, they want to get to that late game. They want to get items, and their team fights will just be so strong.
Yeah, and especially talking about team fights, I think Rakan is very very crucial here. With the Ornalt and the Rakan engage going over top with the Orianna ball, I think a lot of these
Mhm.
team fights can especially be devastating. The one plus side on the side of UFT is they have utility of their own as well. They have Karma, they have Ezreal, so they're going to be a little bit more slippery than usual, but definitely, if a Rakan is flying into your face, a little bit hard to deal with that sometimes.
Yeah, and so, because you mentioned that too, like UFT, they don't have the best damage, right? They
Right.
got some good poke here and there, but talking about pure DPS, when you have to kill this Ornn in a team fight, it takes so long for them to get through all that armor and MR that he's gonna
Right.
build up. So in pure team fights, Warriors just get such a big advantage.
A little bit of a mid lane standoff going on here as we see Plex again.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
We see Plex having a little bit of standoff with the Karma.
Yep, and it's just going to be a standard 5 point getting into it here. And yeah, if you're UFT here, I want to see them making a lot of proactive plays early before like they kind of honestly just fall off, right?
Right.
Volibear, Karma, Ezreal compared to Belvet, Orianna, Zaya, like those team fights look rough 30 minutes into the game.
Right, and definitely I want to see those grubs being taken. I want to see those dragons being taken because on the side of UFT, I think we talked about this in Champ Select as well, but Volibear Karma, absolutely crazy combo in the
Mhm.
jungle. Not a lot of people that can deal with that. And especially if we have a good Nautilus roam as well in the early game.
Mhm.
Definitely going to be a powerhouse on these objective fights in the mid game, so definitely something to look out for.
Yeah, Nautilus is also so good at setting up the plays, the immense range with his hook, right? You can just invade the enemy jungle. If you can find Onat doing one of his camps, you can take him down so easily.
And here we see here that Yumi Princess over here is going to hold on to the Mantra Q for now. Doesn't want to use. I think that's one of those things about Karma mid. What makes a good Karma is the mantra usage, but as Rakan goes in and forces out the Ezreal Flash level 1, a good look, especially, you think that Rakan Zaya are sometimes, like more on the defensive play, but Rakan can make these plays happen, especially against an Ezreal level 1 who does not have the E yet, so very, very good timing attack from there. The W goes on top of Ezreal one more time. Likewise is going to fighting back. Zenden goes really, really low as the Flash was forced out, but Rakan taking a lot of damage.
Yeah, and honestly, Zaya Rakan, their level 1's actually really strong because Zaya gives the W passive to Rakan as well. So Ezreal has to just he takes so much damage and that lane becomes unplayable if he gets so low. So flashing out there is honestly not a bad idea. But Rakan going in that second time, the Zaya W wasn't ready, so he did end up getting punished for it. But yeah, they're actually able to get pushed into the Ezreal, get that much needed prio, because you see both of these junglers are heading bot lane, so they're going to be looking at that bottom scuttle together.
Yeah, I think definitely, one of those matchups where if you can get the flash out, even at the cost of your own, definitely worth it. A little bit tougher because it is in Ezreal, but I think this gives a lot more credibility to fights happening in the bot side with the jungler now.
Yeah, and you got 30 seconds into the scuttle coming in. Actually looks like this wave is going to be slowly pushing back. So, and Karma mid, she can get prio if she wants. So it looks like Volibear should be able to edge them out here, as you don't really want to step up into a Nautilus when there's a Volibear hovering around the corner. The CC chaining is incredible.
Yep, and it looks like Plex is all out of mana for now, so he's going to be taking the back as Yumi is going to be looking for a little bit of help on the side for this scuttle. Like we mentioned, UOFT has the very, very strong early game presence. This scuttle is going to go over to Sai, and Bel'Veth going to channel back as well.
Yeah, and Plex, the Orianna's wave clear is not as strong as the Karma's early game. It looks like Plex was spamming his spells trying to get the prio, but you just run out of mana compared to the Karma. So he's going to have to end up backing and taking the TP as Zenden going down. First blood, just like that, just out of nowhere as UOFT picks up the kill here?
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, and in a moment we're gonna be able to see how that went down. But a nice hook by Bully as Zenden is ignited, and it happened in the flash, like in such a short moment. I think Zenden wasn't really expecting that angle, especially when they're so far into their turret. But a nice look from the Nautilus that looked bad for UOFT at the beginning with that flash, but a little bit of equalizer, helped them transition into the strong early game we talked about.
Yeah, and just like that, the tables have turned in the bot lane as Nautilus with that beautiful hook. And, we see a little fight for the scuttle here. Do the junglers have smite? Ooh, Onat going in for the fight against the Volibear. Plex is going to be coming up, so the bear is going to have to dip. Inexhaustive is here first. Yumi looking for the play here. Volibear going in on the Orianna. Does he have the damage to finish off? Plex flashing away. Rakan's here for the fight, and Plex is running for his life. And Notice picks up the kill here. And now everyone's up in this bot lane here, and it looks like UOFT is driving Waterloo away. Zenden gonna end up going down as Inexhaustive and Onan gonna be hugging their turret here. And that's what we said, right? UOFT is so strong in that early game. The Volibear, the Karma, they're just so much base damage coming in there. It allows them to just win that fight so easily.
Yeah, and Karma, living, I think UOFT, it was a 4v4, right? It was a 4v4 next to the Grubs. It was a fight for the Grubs prio. And, even if Waterloo sends everybody here, it's really, really hard to kill a champion like Karma who has the shield, who has a lot of self-sustain with RW and RE. And especially in these fights, I think Waterloo, try to burst down a character, maybe try to turn the tables in their favor, but it's going to be a little bit too late and a little bit too much power on the side of UOFT. As we notice also, the Gnar has picked up a call.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I like that kind of purchase, right? It's going to be not too easy to punish the orange, so might as well secure some scaling to come in quicker. As Onat looking in from the side, maybe going to go for the Raptors, as Yumi isn't not really any danger here, even though the flash is down.
Yep. And a little bit of counter jungling coming out on the
there's
side of
Blood.
Onat, but Blood wants blood as he says, "Get out of my jungle. This one is mine." Onat managed to steal away a little bit of the small ones, but for the most part, it's going to be a neutral exchange here, as Plex is still level 5, but Karma doesn't really have the big ultimate spell to fire at you, but those Mantra Qs, oh man.
Yeah, and now some of those neutral objectives, the Mountain Dragon, the Grubs, are up as Nautilus looking for another hook. Blood coming in from behind. They might potentially be looking for a dive, but they think better of it.
And it looks like the drag is going to be started up by Blood. Pretty safe choice.
All the pride in the
yeah,
world.
that's pretty safe choice. You know, no complaints here about this decision. As Inexhaustive is gonna ult out Notice. The flash is forced out. Notice is gonna go solo, and he's gonna charge into the pillar, looking for an angle there as well. But Notice has to burn the flash, and this is a very, very scary thing about Ornn. You think that he's just gonna be this friendly, like, mountain beard man making weapons in the top lane, but he has so much damage coming out, especially when he hits 6. So good luck on the side of Inexhaustive, but Notice is going to escape with his life.
Yeah, the good old Ornn combo. I think if he just got one more Brittle proc there, he was going to get the kill. So Notice flashing away there. You buy the call, you mess around, and Inexhaustive is going to punish you for it. But he does not get the kill, and he's able to TP back. Oh, Volibear going in for the dive. Zenden, is not going to end up going down, actually, and now Blood taking a lot of turret shots. Oh, no, Callum gets hooked in here as Nala is surely going to pick up the kill. Ezreal finishes it off. That is huge here. Xayah loses a massive wave.
Yeah, and Callum quite getting a little bit greedy there, if I say so myself. I think, the Volibear ulting the turret and the Zenden living was actually a miracle in itself, I think. But it was a really well played on the side of Warriors. But I think Callum Coy wanted to pick up the kill on the Volibear. He goes a little bit too far, and you can't forget about the Nautilus, right? And now it's going to be looking very, very dire for the side of Waterloo bot lane as Lancrease picks up a kill and the wave crashes into their turret as well. So Callum Coy and Zenden going to be on the back foot for a while now.
Yeah, and Blood really showing the power of the Volibear with those dives. There really wasn't much that they could do, but still, Zenden was able to get out just purely because of how slippery the Rakan is. But yeah, just another mistake made by Waterloo there going back in as Onat face checking the bear. He's coming in. Nollis is here. He's CC'd for a billion years. Zenden coming in to help out, but Karma's first on the roam. Plex is nearby, so he is going to be able to get out.
Yep, and this is the Grub Gauntlet round 2, but UOFT is there before Waterloo and manages to get a huge chunk of HP out from the side of Onat, as, like we mentioned, this is the same playbook over and over and over again. If the Nautilus gets there first and sets up in a bush, it's so hard for for Waterloo to make a relevant play going into the jungle. And I think UOFT making the best use of their comp, making the best use of their picks. But for now, we're gonna put a little bit of a postpone on the Grub battle, as both sides gonna fix themselves up a little bit.
Yeah, and it's interesting. UFT, they have had Prio pretty much the whole game, and Blood actually went up to take the growth, but he only ended up taking one of them. Now, you get that big XP from just taking one, but you really want 5 grubs to get that huge pushing power, but that's not really something UFT cares too much about. So even if they are able to get the grubs, like all 3 of them here, it really won't amount to too much. So they're just leaving it alone for now.
Right, and I think definitely, that's definitely a safer play, but Zenden goes in top of Nautilus as Xayah has hit the 6, and Nautilus is going to go solo, but Onat has run into Blood in the jungle. Going to be a little bit of a skirmish going on here, but neither side's willing to commit too much, as even if Bully is chunked down.
Yeah, a lot of sparks fly, but no one ends up going down. But as you can see, Lancrease, he's just perma pushing that wave in, always having prio, and Volibear is just so fed at this moment, and he's going to have to keep snowballing that. You can see Onat does not stand a chance against Blood in those fights. He has to get out immediately. And if the Bel'Veth can't fight people, then, like, what is her identity?
Right. So Bel'Veth, looking more like a scavenger, right, than a predator, has to swoop in and, like, pick up these little corals when the kills happen and then eventually scale into the game. And Onat definitely very, very careful. The polar bear is pretty high on the top of the food chain, right?
Yeah, he is the apex predator in this game. And with that, UFT 4-0 so far, 10 minutes into this one. You got Dragon coming up in more than a minute here, and UFT have surely set their eyes as soon as it spawns on it.
Yep, and it looks like a lot of bot lane prio coming out, for this Dragon as well. I think, grubs are good, but I think 2 Dragons definitely way more valuable than 6 grubs, I think, especially if you're looking to transition into the late game. So UFT placing a lot of priority here. And I do notice that UFT don't want to go for plays that force things too hard, and I think that's very, very smart because, why, when you have such a huge lead at this moment, like almost a 3K gold difference, right? Like, why force an objective and then potentially throw the game against a comp where, if this goes late, you might just end up losing based on stats, right? So I think UFT going conservative here is, very, very shrewd of them to not overcommit to these things.
Yeah, honestly, I thought they were going to look for another bot lane dive because that was a Xayah with no flash, no ulti, but they are just going to take their resets, buy their items, and come back to this dragon. And you can see Karma has the Malignance, Ezreal has the Triforce. These first items being completed means UFT is way stronger in these fights.
Yeah, and they have, I think, a bit more of justification, a bit more evidence, to start these objective fights. And I think UFT are definitely going to look to start these things up as they start. As Onat is going to look to take the remaining 2 grubs, give them a little bit of XP, get them, get Waterloo a little bit of, some form of objective in the early game.
Yeah, I think they're actually fighting in the top lane too, as an Exhaustive gets the ult, but he's 1 HP, so Noda's going to end up getting the kill here. And he's trying to go for the Ornn combo again, but right now, that Gnar is a little bit too fed. But now, Onat's on the prowl, looking for a much-needed kill here. Noda still has the flash here. Yep, he's going to be able to flash out, the follow by Onat here, and gets the first shutdown. Finally, a Coral picked up for that Bel'Veth, but on the other side, Dragon's going down.
Yeah, and on the other side, it looks like Landcrease has picked up a kill on Zenden as there was a lurking Nautilus in that bush. Watch out, Callum Coy. He still has the ult. Inexhaustive channels the teleport, and Zenden has showed up so fast from out of base, and it looks like Landcrease is going to be running for his life. The Ignite is ticking. He's going to be running to his team. Blood and Princess are here. Volibear comes out over top, and Inexhaustive is looking for Blood against the Blood, but it looks like Callum Coy is going to be looking for the fight. He has to be very careful, though. The ult is down on both sides as Inexhaustive getting the knockup on the Blood, but Volibear is so tanky. But it looks like the Avengers have assembled on the side of Waterloo. Inexhaustive so low. Knockup's going to go onto Yuumi Princess as well. Zenden is deleted by the Karma. But Plague's going to pick up another kill as well. And even if Waterloo has picked up, even if UFT got the Dragon, that's a huge swing in tempo for the side of Waterloo.
Yeah, Onat's looking for more, but sees the Nautilus, ends up backing down. Overall, huge play from Waterloo. And Inexhaustive with the crazy TP to save his ADC. Ends up turning this fight around. And I'm pretty sure Notice had the TP too, but just didn't burn it. And Waterloo, honestly, huge swing in gold lead. Now it's only, I believe, 2K gold that they have to get through going. But notice he's getting up these plates. I believe he's going to be able to pick up 3 plates while that fight was going on.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah, and notice definitely he's 1 minion away from his call. Oh, he got his call proc. 350 gold, the big stimulus check coming into his bank account. But yeah, like last fight, Inexhaustive, comes out of seemingly nowhere. Along with Zenden, and UFT are definitely caught off guard, thinking that Callum Coy was alone under turret. Yeah, great play on the side of Waterloo. Bot tier 1 is going to go down, but I think if you're Waterloo, you're not too unhappy about the outcome of that fight.
Yeah, with the plates and the call cashing in, now UFT sitting at about a 3K gold lead. We do have to keep in mind that Waterloo does have the scaling comps, but UFT is still in the lead right now. The Volibear has picked up the Trailblazer, means he's just going to be zooming onto the carries in these fights. And Blood looking for the Rift Herald here. Not really any contest from Waterloo at this point, so they're going to look to drive it into one of those towers, try and pick up some more standing gold on the map.
Yeah, blood demands blood. What can we say? If you lock eyes with this polar bear, you can't play dead with this thing, right? you gotta run the heck away. As Rift Herald is gonna be taken down for the side of UFT. And if you're Bel'Veth, you want the Rift Herald, but sometimes
it's not happening.
You can't make that happen sometimes, and that's okay.
And if they're gonna be able to use the Herald here on the mid lane, because you see 2 people taking this tower bot. Yuumi, she can't do much here. Zyra Khan going to end up going out, but like I said, mid lane.
Blood has
a little bit finicky here, so they're just going to walk it into the tower. Should still be able to get it really easily.
Yeah, Rift Herald gives the wall a little bit of a kiss, like, mwah, onto that Raptor wall, but it looks like mid lane turret is going to go down regardless of the outcome of that little unfortunate accident. No second charge for the Herald, unfortunately, as Waterloo are going to be looking to stabilize their ship. If Waterloo is a ship, there's a little bit of holes opening up at the bottom and water's flooding in. They're looking to run around and patch it up, and eventually, they'll be able to drain their hull. But notice is going to be going on top of Inexhaustive. Ornn is super tanky, but it's a 4v1 as teleports are channeled on both sides, and Blood off the turret for fun. Off the turret for a little bit of extra intimidation for the side of Waterloo as. Looks like Onat is going to be looking on the opposite side of the map, though, towards Yuumi. But it
Yeah,
is a
but
Karma.
they're
It's a
not
little bit hard to
catching her.
catch.
He's got the dashes have run out too, but another fight coming down on this top lane here as they engage going in. Waterloo running for their life. Zenden looks like he's gonna end up going down once again here as UFT is running this map. Gonna be able to pick up that secondary top tower as well.
Yeah, and UOFT definitely saying, we are the stronger Deathball comp at this moment, right? I think, Waterloo are trying to play the map a little bit, diverge their forces, put it across the map, try to get a little, little advantage. And UOFT is saying, no, I'm going to just kill you, right? I'm just going to pull up with my entire squad in the top lane and just dive you under that tier 2. And I think UOFT definitely making the best use of their comp at the moment, as mid-tier 1's still up for them. So, going into this next Dragon, a lot of potential here for plays to be made here, as Muramon also going to be almost completed on the side of Ezreal.
Yeah, he should basically have this completed for this next Dragon, and I really don't see Waterloo contesting this drag. Zenden looking for a little vision here and there, but I'm pretty sure they'll just hard lose the fight if they do. So they're going to be looking to just pick up minions, pick up jungle camps, and try and continue to scale, get onto that 2-item mark at least before they look for a fight.
Yep, and it looks like UFT doing a little bit of vision work, pushing Waterloo out of their own jungle, as Inexhaustive is on a little bit of a flank, but who are you going to really kill on the side of UFT, right? Not a lot of damage at this moment for the side of Waterloo as well, so... And especially if you have an Ezreal Karma, these standoffs are really, really difficult, right? If you get hit with, a Mantra Q or Ezreal Q, it's really, really difficult for your Waterloo to output the same level of poke as well, as it looks like the third Dragon is going to put UFT on Soul Point with no contest from the side of Waterloo.
Yep, and there it is. Soul Point going over. The Chemtech Soul is actually really strong once you get it. When you're in that low HP, people think they can kill you, but you're just going to come out so much stronger and just kill them right back.
A little bit of an ult from Lankries. He wants some damage onto Zenden. As now the name of the game, I think, is Baron. 2 minutes left on that objective, as I think if UFT manage to keep this pressure up, get the choke out the vision from the side of Waterloo, choke out the, win these poke wars and make sure that Warriors can't step foot into the jungle. I think, this Baron is going to be in the back for them, and Warriors is going to be all about how they can break out, if they can find any picks, if they can find any, alternative angles to, jump into a fight from, because they do still have a lot of engage. They still have Rakan, they still have Ornn, so it's not unheard of to be able to burst down a carry, but if the carries are Karma and Ezreal, a little bit difficult.
Yeah, I mean, you can see they're exactly going for that, right? Trying to Death Bush. Oh, Yumi Princess going to be walking up for that juicy wave, but Blood is hanging back nearby. They're going to look for the engage anyway. Karma's just going to end up flashing out. Blood is a big body to go through, and they're not going to be able to get anything other than that flash.
Yeah, and especially if you don't have, especially with not too many items on the side of Onum like Callum Cole. Yeah, a little bit too difficult. And I think Callum Cole was a little bit out of, playing a little bit conservatively there as well, because he doesn't want to get jumped by the polar bear, obviously. So, getting the Karma Flash out is good. The cooldowns won't be relevant. Won't be relevant on the side of Warriors for the next fight as well. But yeah, definitely so slippery to deal with Karma. With the E, with the RW to heal up. Good attempt, but we need a lot more of those to make a difference, really.
Yeah, it has continued to be about a 6k gold lead for the past 5 minutes of the game, and I think it's really going to come down to this next fight. Like, will they fight for the Baron or give it up and try and play for that big soul fight? As, ooh, Nala's looking for a little hook there, not going to be able to find anything.
Yep. And state of the game report, still the same as usual. I think this side lane matchup has been a lot of Inexhaustive getting beat up by the Gnar. He had that really good turn once the Ornn all is going to be popped, but Mega Gnar is going to be coming out. So Notice wants blood, but Onat is going to be here. The Unstoppable is going to get Inexhaustive through that stun. Notice is going to take him down so low, but that's so much damage coming out from the Gnar. Onat is going to be able to chasing after him. He gets the kill, but Notice making these super plays. He does so much damage with Cleaver, with Triforce, and now that UFT has, Onat bot lane, they have nothing to worry about for this objective.
Yeah, no jungler means Baron should be able to go down. There's barely any poke here. Plex may be going to go for an ult steal, but that's it. They're actually pressuring, looking to go in here. Baron going to end up going down to Blood here, and now Callum looking to play, but Blood going in. They are just so tanky here. It's hard for Warriors to step up. Actually, Onat coming in around the side here. Lankry's still going to have his Arcane Shift, and Onat, he's prowling. He's coming behind. They're kind of stuck near their tower here, but it's going to be hard for Waterloo to force a fight because that Gnar is up in 5 seconds with TP.
Yeah, and that was a good attempt from Waterloo, chunking out UOFT while they were focused on doing the Baron. But again, UOFT have no reason to turn and fight Waterloo, right? They're very, very happy with the outcome of how that happened. They can lose a few members, but as long as they get Baron and is able to play the map in these next few minutes, they're so happy about that, right? Nothing, no reason to really give Waterloo a fight and potential to turn the game, as this mid-tier 1 not going down symbolizes, the mountain of problems Warriors have to solve going into the next few minutes of the game.
Yeah, and honestly, taking that Baron down before the Dragon comes up means no shenanigans with cross-mapping or anything. They're just going to be able to easily get control in this bottom side and take that Dragon free of charge. We'll see if Waterloo does end up contesting it or not, as the vision is just completely UFTs in this bottom jungle, and there's a lot of work to be done to try and even walk up there.
Yeah, and especially, we noticed, haha, because we see Notice, but we noticed before that Notice has such an upper hand in the side lane pressure against Inexhaustive. We saw that even with Onat coming in, Notice was able to kill him with the Black Cleaver with the Triforce, and Inexhaustive actually has 2 MR items. Also, so it's going to be even harder for him to match the side lane pressure of Notice with the Baron buff. So, I can see them giving up, a little bit more to potentially use his Ornn in a team fight, but definitely UOFT are the ones with more options here.
Yeah, it's interesting that he has so much MR into that build when I guess it's like Blood does a lot of magic damage, Karma of course, so he is mainly playing for those team fights instead of the laning phase. But yeah, like the Triforce Black Cleaver build is you're just going to shred through that Ornn in the side lane, and you can see Notice pushing up again. Onat getting Nala's ulted here. He's running back as Rakan going in for a nice engage here, but barely AoE from Waterloo as Callum, he's hitting. Ornalt coming in from behind as Zendin gonna end up going down.
Huge shockwave!
Oh, and they're now on the run with the Shockwave. Callum flashing forward, getting the kill onto Karma, but going to end up going down. Now Lankry's getting the kill. Double kill. Onat running for his life, and Lankry's looking for the Q of Destiny. Hits a triple kill for him, as that's going to be UOFT taking the team fight.
And you know what? That was the best. Honestly, one of the best attempts Waterloo could have made on that play. They go in, with the Ornalt flank right before Notice gets here. They go in for the Ornalt flank. They have a huge shockwave combo. After a lot of ults are invested already on the side of UOFT, but sometimes these gold leads are so difficult to overcome. We noticed that, Callum was hitting Volibear and Nautilus for, ages and ages on end, but couldn't make a dent in them. And, and I think definitely, that was a good attempt, but UOFT really showing the power of their composition, the power of, playing to your strengths, and especially, that's not a fight you can take usually, but if you're UOFT, you're definitely confident about that one.
Yeah, and on the back end of it, they end up getting the soul here. Chemtech Soul going over to the side of UOFT, and now their lead has just grown exponentially.
Yep, and we're looking at almost a 10k gold difference here with Dragon Soul, on the side of UOFT. So I think for Waterloo, maybe the only hope going into this next 6 minutes is flipping an Elder or something like that. But UOFT definitely, I think one of the worst feelings in League of Legends is if you're getting crushed by somebody and then you realize they have more items they could buy, you're like, you can get even stronger. And I think that's a little bit of what Waterloo is going to be feeling right now, as 3 core coming out from the side of Ezreal right now after that fight. Muramana rolled his Triforce, and he's going to be opting for the Frozen Heart next, so even harder to kill from the side of Waterloo.
Yeah, and honestly, he did so much work on the back end of that fight. When they were not able to get him with that initial engage, you can just kite so easily. Arcane shift forward, and he picked up 3 on the back end of it. Lankry's put out so much damage in the fight. So if you're Waterloo, on the next fight, you're going to have to look to somehow take him down.
Yep, and now the name of the game is this bot lane turret. Well, they're going to tank it up a little bit. Lankry does so much damage to turrets right now. E-shift forward, look how confident this man is.
Yeah, he does not care, but Sandan looking for the shift forward. Shockwave on the Rakan ulti. Lankry's shifting away. Onat, Callum looking for him. Onat's on the prowl. Lankry's shifting back. He gets his next E up, and he's going to be able to take down the Bel'Veth. And now Callum Koi's all the way behind as the Ornalt comes in onto the front line. As Notice moving forward, takes down Plek. Zendin's next on the board, flashes forward, turns Mega, and now he's looking next onto Inexhaustive. He does not care about this tower.
Yeah, and Warriors pull out everything. They pull out all their stops. They throw the kitchen sink, trying to kill Lancrease. The ADC, Xayah, is sprinting through the battlefield, trying to get to this Ezreal, but it's a little bit too much, I don't know, too much mobility and too much stats out from the side of Ezreal. We talked about the Frozen Heart, Onat going to be slowed up and killed by the Ezreal as well, as Lancrease is going to solidify the ace, and now blood for the Blood God as Nexus is going to go down. It's going to be 1-0 UFT.
Yeah, great performance by UFT here as they just kept putting the pedal to the metal here, kept accelerating the pace of the game. And that one mistake by Waterloo trying to fight for the scuttle,
Right.
that was like, UFT's like, that's all I need, man. As Blood, beautiful gangs, beautiful skirmishes, and they were so on top of the objectives. And Waterloo, they were just never able to get any space to breathe.
Yeah, and it looks like definitely the space to breathe. Definitely, I think that's the biggest thing I agree with here is it looked like UFT were so comfortable that entire game because they had so much room to work with. Whether that was about division, whether that was about the amount of decisions they can make about do we want to fight, do we not want to fight, especially with their comp, they had so many options at all stages of the game, and I think Warriors weren't able to adapt to that. They made a little bit, they made good attempts, good crack shot plays trying to get back into the game, but I think UFT definitely shutting that down with their decision making and their macro. Overall, very clean cases where you pick a scaling comp into a more of a early game playmaking comp, and then you can't really get back into the game ever, and they just snowball the game out of control.
Yeah, and honestly, the Bel'Veth, she was kind of just starving in that game. You really need the corals. You need to kind of snowball on her. But the comp that was picked around her just could not facilitate what she needed to do. And she barely just did any damage towards the later end of the game. And that Ezreal too, right? If you have one person that you need to kill, Ezreal is one of the hardest characters to get onto. And he played it beautifully. He was never going down in those fights, even though they threw, like you said, everything and the kitchen sink on top of it. And with that, UFT is going to end up picking up game 1 of this best of 3 series.
Yeah, and Bel'Veth, definitely a pick where you need prio on a certain lane. I think this game actually, it was about bot lane, if anything. I think Xayah Rakan had the potential to flip the lane against the UFT bot lane, but I think after the early gameplays and after Volibear gave them a little bit of attention, I think Ezreal got ahead, and it was in a way 3 losing lanes.
Yeah.
And then a Bel'Veth who really can't do anything. And I think you mentioned this in draft too, but Volibear is a very, very smart pick. Or Volibear is such a good pick against Bel'Veth because these invades that Bel'Veth can pull off sometimes are not possible if there's a friggin' polar bear getting a 200 health HP shield and so much damage, especially with prio from all his laners. Very, very difficult.
Yeah, Onat just could not play the game there, but that was game 1. This is a best of 3 series. We'll have to see if UFT can finish it off or if Walu's got some fight in them in the next one. We'll see you in a little bit. Don't go anywhere. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We had game one of the CLOL East, round six, Waterloo versus UFT. The Titans clashed, and UFT came out on top in game one with a convincing game, taking out the early game and just following that, snowballing it, and picking up the win.
And such a dominant game that was, right? UFT never letting, putting the foot down on the pedal and never letting that go for the entire duration of that game. Choke out Waterloo, absolute masterclass from the side of especially, Blood, as well, using that volleyball pick to the best of its ability. And I think now that means that, in a best of three, you have to adapt. You have to see what went wrong. And I think if I'm Waterloo right now, I have to adapt my strategy. I think they definitely have to rethink how they're going to be drafting in this next game and what kind of prio they're going to give their laners.
Yeah, and taking a look at that draft that they had in game one, right? The Volibear, the Karma just gave so much priority, which really shut down the game plan that Belvet had going. So, looking into game two, maybe they want to try and pick a different jungler or pick some more lanes that give Belvet or any other jungler more prio because they couldn't contest any of the objectives and they just slowly bled out. So, UFT, they know how to put pressure on you if you give them the space. So, Walu have to try and get some picks that facilitate them to kind of fight early, contest these objectives, and get some gold on their hands.
Yeah, I think Belveth was definitely a pick that ended up in the air with no real direction that game, and I think they could have opted for both things. Where they could have played a more supportive, conservative jungler that would actually scale into the game with the team without as many resources, or they could have picked something. They had Rakan, right? They had Ornn, so they could have actually opted for something like Vi. That has a lot more lockdown, especially if you're going against a one carry system almost that UFT had out. So something like that, I think would have had more added more identity to the comp of Waterloo, but definitely got to rethink that jungle pick, I think.
Yeah, definitely. That Belvet, she was trying to dash forward here and there, but they're these tiny little dashes. Can't really catch the Ezreal, just arcane shifting back and forth. So yeah, having the point and click with the Vi or having something with more engaged like Zac or Sejuani to try and push the Ezreal out of the fight and not let him play means it's really just the Karma and Volibear damage, which is decent, but it's not DPS, right? So that Ornn was fairly tanky, but having noticed with the Black Cleaver taking him down so easily, it really was just hard for them to play the game.
Yeah, and I think Onat definitely was in a bit of a tough situation that game, especially as an exhaustive had that really close play top where he still managed to almost solo kill Gnar, and then it was all downhill from there.
Yeah, exactly. And now Warriors have swapped it around. They're taking the blue side here, and Ban's going to be looking to stay fairly similar. It's going to be the Ash and Smolder, but this time they're getting the Karma out of there. They don't really want to play, but they don't want UFT to have it either.
Yeah, as the resident Karma merchant, I approve. I think Karma is crazy this meta, and I think if you're not going to play her, you got to ban her. And if you are going to play against her, then you have to have an appropriate response, which is, I think, more difficult than it should be. So I think definitely smart. I like the adaptive draft coming out from the side of Warriors that opens up a lot more creativity and variety in this mid lane. I think with Karma gone, I think Orianna is definitely still a good pick on the side of Warriors. So good adaptation, I'd say.
Yeah, and Warriors love to first pick that Oriano, so we'll see if they end up doing it or UFT end up banning it out. But yeah, like we talked about before, taking the Karma away kind of reduces the kind of early game impact that you can find with some of the picks. The Volibear is still open. We'll see if Warriors going to let UFT have that because honestly, Blood was popping off on that pick.
Yeah, and definitely, if you're going to play against the Volibear, you're going to have some sort of plan. If they're going to let this through, then they obviously need to have more there's not a lot of junglers that can really fight Volibear, and I think one of them potentially is Nocturne actually, but we saw that ban coming out on the top of UFT, so I think they definitely have a smart draft plan going into this, so yeah, definitely something to look out for.
Yeah, something Nocturne or the Trundle that can contest it early. And some of the, having the Orion and the Xayah, I honestly think are good picks into the Volibear who has to run at you, but they were just so behind that didn't end up mattering. So yeah, just a little bit of help early game from jungle or top lane might help that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, on paper, that Xayah pick was crazy. I think especially, when they have so much CC and you can just press one button and avoid all that and, kite backwards, and win the fight, that's honestly such a huge advantage. But one thing they forgot is that they were the ones who had to go into the side of UFT, not the other way around. So definitely a little bit It's a tough situation there for all players for Warriors, but it's gonna be UFT with the final Senna ban. So basically the same bans as before,
Mhm.
but with a little bit of added karma.
Yeah, and there we go. Warriors taking the Volibear away. Looks like this is going to be the pick ban thing of the series, and we'll see how well the Warriors can play with it. Like we said, crazy prio that you can get with this character, but a new character in here, we got the Twisted Fate.
Yeah, and like I think right now in the meta there are the two kings, or sorry, the king and queen of mid lane. I think it's gonna be TF and Karma. So definitely Twisted Fate. Even with a little bit of nerfs across, even if with a little bit of nerfs across the board, I think he's still incredibly strong. So TF gonna be locked in for the side of UFC. I do like the Nocturne Hover as well. I think we talked
Hmm.
about this, right, Volibear. If you're gonna be able to fight him, you need something like a Nocturne, and that is what's gonna be locked in. So UFT bringing out their own playbook and saying like this is our adaptation to your adaptation.
Yeah, and the Nocturne TF kind of brings that global comp, right? You see this Aatrox they picked, you find him alone on the side lane, you get Nocturnal TF ult onto him, and he just can't play the game. So
Right.
they want to really need to be aware of that, the rotation possibilities coming in from UFT here. But yeah, inexhaustive, immediately taking that Aatrox, not going to let that get banned away.
Yeah, and I think last game I think Waterloo did put didn't put Prio on this top lane matchup. They did give him the Ornn.
Hmm.
And I think in exhaustive this game, he had potential to almost flip that game around at certain moments. So they're gonna
Hmm.
give him his best pick as Ari is gonna be locked in on the side of Warriors.
Yeah, already receiving some buffs this patch has gotten a lot better, and now into the Aatrox, they're kind of thinking they want to do like Gwen, Lil Cassante, a lot of different options here. But Aatrox, like you said, he needs to split push to try and have some ability to contest, try and put some pressure on the map, but it's so hard to do against this comp. The Cassante is not going to get killed, and if you somehow get him low, there will be two people porting into you instantly.
Yeah, and I think I like the Ari pick. I think the justification is that her wave clear is really good, so
Hmm.
maybe she can lock down the TF in lane a little more than like a character with less wave clear would. I think it's always a nightmare to have TF hit 6 and then and coordinate plays on bot.
Hmm.
With those ultimates, I think it's almost inevitable that somebody will die around the map once TF hits 6. So I think Ari definitely a pick that can contest TF on trades and also the wave clear. So I do like that choice.
Yeah, now we got the good old Zaya Kaisa ADC bands coming out. We'll see if Ezreal ends up staying on the board or not. Maybe the Tom Kench actually. That's interesting since you only really see that character with the Senna. If they do end up blocking it, not sure what they're thinking with that. But yeah, maybe they're trying to cancel out some hyper carry Tom Kench combination, something like that.
Yeah, and maybe they're afraid that Tom Kench would be, too much of a counter to things like Nocturne and TF, where like they do at the end of the day want to go for a single target.
Mm.
So maybe that's a justification there, as we did see that UFT had a monster Nautilus performance last game as well, so that's going to be another smart ban coming out from the side of Warriors. As now we'll have to see what the bot lane rumble is going to be.
Yeah, the draft has been all about that top side, and now UFT's gonna have to figure out what they play in the bot lane. And ooh, we got Zeri coming back into the meta. She got some base AD buffs. You love to see that coming in for any character. Makes a big impact, and we'll have to see what kind of builds they end up going for her.
Yeah, and Zeri is going to be locked in, so we are potentially going to see something like Zeri Lulu, Zeri Melia, some kind of Zeri Enchanter, potentially. As we talked about the Ezreal, it might be the Ezreal response from the side of
Hmm.
Warriors, as that is the case. And I think definitely UFT are very mobile
Hmm.
at this stage of the game. So I think, yeah, something like Maokai, something that can give a lot of, can punish these mobile characters running around, some lock point and click CC, a little point and click CC, a little bit of area lockdown and vision control. I think Maokai is a good pick going into UFT, but that's only if they don't pick something crazy for their support.
Yeah, and Ezreal Maokai is an interesting lane. It looks like they're trying to just pick one of those self-sufficient ADCs so that Maokai can get on the map and make a big impact happen. But it's gonna be a Braum for a reply, not one of the usual pairings that you see with the Zeri. You want to try and get some stuff to buff her up, but Braum gonna help try and keep her safe from the threats coming in straight in front of her. Things can block the Ezreal ult, can block the Ahri charm, things like that.
Yeah, I think Braum is definitely a more interesting pick. I think, Zeri, like you mentioned, is traditionally paired with enchanters. So definitely, I think Braum maybe putting a little bit more strength in the early skirmishes. But we
Hmm.
definitely have to see what's gonna be the case. Especially I think Zeri with the Zeri lane gonna be very interesting.
Yeah, and Zeri's giving them that late game scaling win condition, right? You have a lot of proactive early to mid game fighting with on both of these teams, honestly. But as you go into this late game, that Zeri is the hyper carry that both teams are gonna be playing around.
Yeah, and we did mention lockdown, and realistically, the only point and click CC on the side of Warriors is gonna be the Maokai W. So,
Hmm.
Zeri with Ghost late game is gonna be really really hard to catch.
Yeah, exactly. But on the side of Warriors, you got a really fast bear, Ari with three ultis, and some good CC from the Maokai. So Zeri's definitely gonna have to be playing it well. But yeah, whose draft do you kind of like more going into this game?
Yeah, so I think definitely I right now I think this game could almost be decided off the level 6. I think
Hmm.
with Twisted Fate Nocturne, if they can get the snowball going, these are crazy characters, right? I think
Hmm.
if Nocturne one of the things I always like to think is that if Nocturne doesn't get a kill off his first ult, it's like a big disaster. Or like if he doesn't get a significant lead off his first ult, it's a really really bad place for him to keep going forward. But I think if he manages to snowball the game and pressure the side lanes, especially like you mentioned against Inexhaustive, it's going to be UFT's game to be losing. But um, I think Warriors have a bit more of a rounded comp now. They have picks that have prio in lane, so
Hmm.
I think I can also see them snowballing the game as well.
Yeah, I just gotta say these Volibear skins are looking really cool. We saw like the cool like mountain tiger bear coming in
Yeah,
the
what?
last game, and I'm not sure what skin this is actually, but it definitely looks awesome. As you got the Transformer versus the Popstar in the top lane. As now Yumi looking for Plex with the gold card here, the Braum coming up right behind him, but Ona and Plex gonna be going out. Ooh, gold card
Ouch.
lands.
Plex not very happy about that. He pops the W, but Twisted Fate has a lot of range. As Yumi Princess has opted for a Dorn's ring, so potential this is looking to be an APTF kind of build instead of the AD.
Yeah, and we were talking about TF in that draft, but we really didn't mention the flexibility of it. It can go bot, it can go mid, it can go top, but it looks like it will just be mid. Nothing too crazy right now, as just trades going back and forth in the mid lane, as both of these junglers going to be going from top to bot again.
Yeah, TF going for the TF special, the top deck special, right? The
Yeah.
instant red card, the instant whatever. Doesn't care too much about what comes out as trades going on around in all the lanes right now, and Exhaustive looking to put a little bit of pressure on Notice. That's how this matchup goes level 1 against Aatrox. Not a lot of characters that can challenge his range, as Exhaustive is going to pick up a little bit of prio here, as Notice. Taking these Qs, but Kazande doesn't care too much.
Yeah, and it's going to be both junglers coming in towards that bot side. Both going to be looking for that scuttle around the 330 mark. And I think, honestly, the Ezreal should give him the push. As, oh, gold card landed by Yumi Princess. Electrocute being procced by Plex in return. And they're both actually getting really low. Something for Onat to look at. And he's changing his path. He's looking at the mid lane.
Yep, and TF, one of these picks where, the wave clear is insane.
Ooh.
Onak going to be actually spotted out on the ward, so Yumi going to know to play towards his bot side, potentially look for a counter gank with the Nocturne as well. But, yeah, like we mentioned, the TF is a pick that's very easy to get prio on, very easy to push out the, very character with very, very good wave clears. So, if you look for, so a lot of these mid matchups end up being a battle of the junglers looking for the counter ganks and the ganks. So, we see a little bit of that element, just now.
Yeah, and honestly, this waste of time is actually particularly big because if Nocturne can finish up all his cancer for Scuttle, he's going to be level 4, and Onat's still going to be level 3. Getting that extra level in these early games for that Scuttle fight is actually a pretty big deal. So Nocturne will honestly win the fight against the Volibear if they do go for it.
Yeah, and I think definitely that early ward definitely very, very crucial to those trades there as, like we mentioned, speaking of trades, top lane is always a slugfest as Notice going to crash, gonna get a little bit of a freeze going on the side of an Exhaustive, but definitely, I think we talked about this, but Inexhaustive's Aatrox is his signature pick. It's the pick to watch out for. I think if he wins lane on this, which he does very, very often, it's very, very hard to stop. And I think Nocturne also a very, very important pick going into this, like we mentioned, these side lane matchups, as Blood is going to be looking for the sneaky level 4 gank on the bot lane. I don't know if Warriors know what's coming. The flash, instant W into Blood. Is Zenden going to be able to get away? The fear comes out as Zeri going to be picking up first blood. Huge kill. And like we mentioned, the level 4 Nocturne is so scary.
Yeah, huge kill by the, I believe Zeri ended up getting it too, which is just perfect, getting it onto Landkreis. And that was just a great gank. And you see that just pace from the Nocturne, right? Finishing up the camps, getting the Scuttle instantly, and getting that bot lane gank. And honestly, Onat was not able to read much of that. I think he went to that scuttle late, and now he's looking top for the gank onto Notice. As Notice, he puts down the ward, and these top lane changes, right? Before, doesn't matter if that ward's there, you'll just go around and gank him from behind. But now top lane is a lot safer. You cannot just walk up as the wall is closed off. So that's honestly going to save Notice's life there.
Yeah, and a little bit, that always feels good. Oh, and Callum
Wow.
has actually gone to take down on Braum, and Zeri is going to go solo as well, and a double kill out of nowhere for Callum McCoy. We're going to see how that happened, but that's absolutely huge. We talked about how big that kill was for Zeri. The cleanse going to be popped on the side as Maokai, you know, he may have died once, but, you know, the lockdown, the utility is crazy as Waterloo going to counterpunch back on the side of UOFT as with the wave going in, this suddenly looks good for Waterloo.
Yeah, these blue side ball lanes, man, it's just deja vu. You look away for 1 second and boom, there's a kill. As Ezreal getting 2 kills on the board here, gonna crash that wave. Lancry is gonna miss a lot of that as well, as now ball lane is just way more favorable to them.
Yeah, and definitely things do look a little bit dire for the side of bot lane, but again, like we mentioned, these blue side bot lanes, you know, these plays can happen like, you know, at a snap of a finger. And I think now with Callum McCoy picking up, this is one of the strongest backs for Ezreal, I think. One of the most ideal buys is this tier machine back. Gives him a lot of laning power as well as give him scaling into going into this mid game. So I think Callum's going to be very, very happy about that as, you know, first Drake is going to be Infernal. So maybe a little bit of fight, little bit of slugfest going on around there as both mid laners has hit 6. And Blood is going to invade the Raptors, so he's going to be looking to get this fast 6 on the side of Nocturne as well.
Yeah, and bot lane going to be able to push out for that prio, which means Infernal Drag should most likely going to be going over to UFT here. I want to see Waterloo trying to make a play on that cross map, maybe looking for the grubs here, as they seem to know that the Dragon's there, probably not going to fight for it. They're not really in position.
Yep, and it looks like first drag is going to be going to the side of U of T. As Plex, Nocturne doesn't have 6 yet, so not in too much danger there. But yeah, now that we talked about this period before the game started, this level 6 coming out from both mid and jungle, so definitely keep your eyes on this Nocturne. If your screen suddenly goes black, please do not panic. You know, that is just routine procedure.
Yeah, and like you said, that first Nocturne ult is going to be something to watch out for. He should be getting it just in a few camps here and looking to make a big impact on it. They are going to spot him out on the bot side, and they're going to know that all those camps are gone. So maybe they're going to be like, yeah, he's going to look to be in the top side when his ult's going to be coming up. And in Exhaustive, he's got the flash and the ult to try and get out as Onap going for the grubbies.
Yeah, and it looks like this is going to be mostly uncontested grubs. Nocturne has back, doesn't have 6 yet, and Exhaustive has a big wave crashing into top wave. So definitely the best timing to do grubs right now, I think. You know, someone making up for that level 1, that bot lane dragon take. So the game looking, you know, not too relaxed, you know, both sides, you know, keeping up the pace, keeping up the tension. So 3 grubs is going to be going to the side of the Warriors.
Yeah, and unlike last time, Onat's actually going to end up taking all 3 of them, so they can play for that 5 grub win con. Not win con, but very big luxury if you're able to get it. Yeah, Nocturne, he's going to be hitting 6 soon. You see flashes pretty much everywhere across the board other than that bot lane, but Ezreal's got the cleanse. Maybe Maokai is the target that you want to go after.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this Nocturne 6 for a while, and he has actually just hit it. You know, Volibear has been sitting on his ult for a while now, as, you know, with the Krug clear going down and Notice running back to lane, if it Exhaustive stays for another wave, this could be the play. Potentially with the Braum rotate could be the play onto Ahri, but, you know, Plex having the ult, going to be a little bit hard to lock him down, but the CC chaining is crazy. 1, 2 autos and the Ignite.
Wow.
Yumi Princess is going to take down Plex. No Nocturne ult needed here. And
Yeah.
I guess that's why you pick Braum.
Well, Plex just is greedy, I think. He has the ult, he has the flash, but refuses to use any of it and just ends up going down to a Braum walking up to him.
Yeah, and definitely deceptively high damage. I think Braum, one of those carries, if the passive is procced on you, and you know, you underestimate TF, you underestimate Braum, but you got to remember that Yumi Princess has taken the unsealed spellbook, so maybe the Ignite wasn't also expected there as well.
That's true.
But Plex is going to be going down, and yeah, he's gotta be a little bit more respectful now of this mid lane matchup.
Yeah, and now Braum coming back to that bot lane as just a quick look across the board here. You see, because of Plex going down, TF building up a little bit of a CS lead, but everywhere else, there is a pretty good CS lead for Waterloo as Inexhaustive Gonna be taking a little fight as both of them pop in their ults, but no kill's gonna be end up going down. Oh, never mind. Notice going for it. Misses his combo, which means inexhaustive. It's his turn to fight as he gets Notice down to super low. Notice just gonna be end up walking off.
Yep, and Cassandre always so scared to fight in all-out mode, but Inexhaustive taking a really good trade there, kiting around kiting around the Cassandre spells. So Inexhaustive, I think I'd be pretty happy about that. Looks like Ona is gonna be sitting in this bot lane bush for now, but Nocturne is on the other side of the map. But potentially, if they get enough poke in here, they could look for the dive with the Volibear ult. As UOFT are looking to turn the fight, the Volibear ult gonna go down. The Azure ult comes down on top of Dell as well, and Lancrease pops the ult, pops the flash, but it's a little bit too late. But now we talked about this, the Nocturne ult coming down, instant flash used by Inexhaustive. The Fear gonna come down as well. The Q3 gonna knock up Side Blood, and Yumi Prince is gonna invest the teleport as well. He's gonna use the flash as well, but is he gonna go down? Yes, Inexhaustive.
Oh, he didn't auto him.
Yeah, it is going to be an execute. It looks really, 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 it's a really good response from the side of Inexhaustive, but at the end of the day, two global ults, like we mentioned, a bit hard to fend off, but not the worst outcome for Warriors there, because that takes a little bit of tempo off, for investing 2 ults on the side of UFT, but definitely a cross-map play happening. UFT definitely not just going to let that bot lane play go unanswered.
Yeah, and that's the power of the Nocturne TF, right? You could argue Inexhaustive played that perfectly. He buffered like the Aatrox Q3 onto the Nocturne just as the spell shield went off. But yeah, there's a TF coming in too, so you just really can't do anything. But now, neutral objective is going to be spawning once again here, and Waterloo should actually have a lot more prio for this because the 2 big ultimates, the globals, are gone on the side of UFT.
Yep, and we notice especially that this TF ult takes 10 years to come up for good reason. That's a very powerful ult, but I think Warriors definitely are going to look to contest this, as Ezreal is going to be coming back with an Essence Reaver.
Ooh, if he can stop that back. That is actually huge by Zenden, as Zeri, she needs to go back. She's less than half HP. Onak going to be canceling it once again. And honestly, that's just the dragon for them, I think, if they want to take it.
Yeah, and I think there was a sliver of a chance that UFT could contest this dragon, but after those back cancels, probably not. I think, now, so they realize now that, with that dragon being kind of impossible to contest, Blood is going to go for the grubs. Instead, actually, Ona is going to run and try to match this. I think, like we mentioned, they are going to go, they are not going to go let this 5 grub win con get uncontested. Blood manages to steal away 1, but if Waterloo get 2 here, it's going to be crazy. The ult is channeled instantly on the top lane as well. A little bit of deja vu coming here, as Inexhaustive is going to be running away. The channel, the auto attacks, notice, is going to be taken down. I think Inexhaustive wanted to, thought that he could out heal the Cassandre's damage. So going back for a little bit of play there, but I think Inexhaustive has been really good in absorbing these top lane Nocturne ults. That is a 2-for-2 ult that he's absorbed, and with relative grace. And I think that lets Waterloo turn onto this dragon as well, as, like we mentioned, 5 grubs going on the side as well.
Like that top lane fight, that was okay, but the real winner is Waterloo gets 5, which is huge, and they're looking at the dragon as well. Lancrease going to have to walk away, and Onak going to be turning back onto the dragon here. The Nocturne is quite far away, and Notice TP top, which means this is all but Waterloo's.
Yep, and it looks like Zenden is going to be jumping onto Bully here. The Braum, a little bit too tanky, though, not too much pressure, not too much threat. So a little bit of a light sparring match between the supports, but yeah, Waterloo definitely beginning the snowball, but Zenden is going to be stunned up, and 4 people with the teleport channel is going to be running onto the bot lane, Yumi Princess included, and Plex has come to match this teleport, but for the most part, that's just going to be Zenden going down.
Yeah, and they do get a pick, but they do invest a TP for it. TF has a spellbook, so it's not a big deal. Good pick onto Zenden. Mainly just the gold of the kill going to be the main value there. But yeah, you can see it's going to come down to a little bit of that lull state as we wait for the next dragon to come up. Both of these teams aren't like too much stronger than each other and need to force any fights. No like taking time bomb other than maybe the Zeri. But so everyone's just going to take it slow, farm it out, and make sure they're strong for those next objective fights coming up.
So let's take bets here. Where do you think this Nocturne ult is going next?
It's going top.
It's going top?
It's going top.
It's going top. I think if I'm Inexhaustive right now, I'm screaming, again, not again,
that Aatrox has no flash. Nocturne has his eyes set.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah,
as they say.
I mean, they did kill him 2 times, so it's not like it's not been working, but they haven't been able to get too much on the back of it. Onat hovering around this bot lane, which means Zeri and Braum got to dip out of there, which means it should be the first turret going down to Waterloo here.
Yeah, with the first turret, Blood does not want to also give that away for free, so Rift Herald is going to be started up, and with the TF and the Cassante ready there as bodyguards for Blood, looks like UOFT is going to trade the Rift Herald back, but Inexhaustive actually going to spot out this Herald. Is he going to contest this? I think especially when they have two
surely
global
not.
Surely not. Surely not. I know Inexhaustive is a crazy top laner, but not crazy enough for that.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to get the Rift, and most of the time, Rift for a turret trade isn't a good idea, but that turret was almost gone anyway, so good to see them make the play on the other side of the map. Now it's mainly just going to come down to can they get a good charge off of it, maybe try and break one of these turrets because they have yet to get a single one.
Yeah, and I think, you know, especially if you're Waterloo, there's more reasons that you want to take that turret trade. You know, Ezreal is so strong right now. He has the Essence Reaver, his second item almost coming up as well. And I think this, you know, frees up Maokai and Ezreal, who have a lot of playmaking potential, you know, to come mid lane, to make more dynamic plays around the map. So I think they're going to be moderately happy about that outcome.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see notice here, first item Thornmail purely playing for that side lane matchup, getting the armor, getting the healing reduction, which becomes so big when Aatrox ultis. He's going to look to 1v1 him in the top lane, like, as this game goes on, and I'm all for those spicy fights.
Yeah, but, you know, Thornmail. But what about the Giga Chad 3 longswords? You know, just my longsword build. You know, on the side of Inexhaustive.
Yeah, he's got one in each hand, holding one in his mouth, and he's ready to fight.
Yeah, you got the Zoro.
Yeah.
He's got the One Piece build on the side of Inexhaustive. Like we mentioned, this guy has not been, you know, I think very easy to just die, right, with these Nocturne ults coming into his lane, but he has been very, very good in not going down without a fight. As and whenever you look here, where there's always a trade going, but the all-out going to be popped by Notice. Inexhaustive going to pop World Ender as well. Q1 going to get the knockup on Notice. Is Notice going to go for the second Q? The Q2 doing a lot of damage, but Cassante with Ghost a little bit hard, a little bit slippery to catch, but we see
Nocturne's coming!
He's coming. You know, we talked about this. The ICBM is coming. Ezreal ult gonna be able to do a little bit of damage for that wave, and are they gonna go for this dive? But on the other side of the map, Charm going out on top of Yumi Princess. Onat does not have, is not gonna invest the ult, but very, very scary as Zenden looking to cover top lane here, but Blood has found his back as Notice very, very low and without all out, but that's mid lane turret actually going to be going down.
Yeah, they were looking so long trying to look for an angle onto an Exhaustive, but he got so much healing at the end of that fight that you couldn't dive him, and Wally's going to take that mid tower, opening up the map so much.
Yeah, that is the fastest bear I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, it'll get faster, don't you worry.
Yeah.
He's actually not going the speed build, which concerns me, you know?
Right, but that's the build where if he bites you, like,
oh, you're dead.
Yeah, you're dead, right? Like we talked about that is a polar bear. You know, you don't escape from that polar. Bears run like deceptively fast, I think, in real life too. You know, a lot of
TF ulti coming in, looking for a pick onto Zenden here. They've got a lot of CC. They should be able to take down the tree. They're using all these ultimates for it, and Dragon is coming up, so they're hoping to try and get that 5v4 to try and contest this next Dragon. We'll see if Waterloo still want to fight for it, though, because Maokai, he's going to be there for the later end of the fight, even if they do fight for the Dragon.
Yeah, and Zenden not having a very good time this game. I think he's been the one that UOFT has been like looking to find every fight. They know the tree is not too mobile, so they go for him every fight. As Onat gonna channel the E, gonna see if the Dragon's going down. The Ezreal ult goes wide. The teleport is channeled by Inexhaustive. The Volibear ult comes on top. The Cloud Drake gonna be stolen away. Blood pops the Paranoia as, you know, Onat gonna be feared up, but he's still full health. 2 flashes over the wall mean that, sorry, not a flash, but the Aatrox E means that Warriors have successfully pulled off a heist on the Dragon, especially with Zenden down. They're going to be happy about that one.
Yeah, I like the discipline from them, honestly. Like, they could have kept fighting. They had a good angle. Aatrox popped his ulti, but nah, they get out of there. They take the drag. They say TY for leash, and they are out of there.
Yeah, if I was that Aatrox, you know, I was gonna World Ender in and then explode.
How can you not go in?
Yeah. Yeah, crazy discipline from the side of Inexhaustive. Very strong performance from him throughout this entire game. As Warriors, I think, exhibiting some of the qualities from UOFT last game. I think they are looking to, play these fights a little bit more slowly. Don't go in too Like, no, don't commit too hard to things. That
Yeah,
are
as you say that,
risky.
he arcane shifts forward.
Okay, my
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, I was not familiar with your game. My bad.
Yeah, but yeah, he arcane shifts forward when there's 2 globals on the enemy team, but thank God they're down right now. So with that, yeah, it's going to be Baron spawning in a minute. You got Waterloo with 2 dragons, UFT with 1. Seoul still a while to go, so a lot of team fight still left to be done. But right now, both these ADCs are looking so strong and be dealing so much damage. So I think it will come down to who can do better and who gets caught out in these fights.
Yeah, and especially right now at this stage of the game, you know, Zeri isn't online yet. I don't think Zeri really comes online until at least 3 items, I would say, right? At least 2 or 3 items. So we see that he's been absolutely being bullied by the Ezreal as Blood channels the ult, but I think he underestimated the amount of people that were actually around in the mid lane.
Yeah, I would think the TF ult, he would see it, but I think what they really saw was, oh yeah, it was all a bait. You go on the Ezreal while Secret Agent Red Panel doesn't get the oh my god, the mid tower stands.
Mission failed.
We'll get him next time. But yeah, in the end, huge dump for Waterloo in there as I think they saw Callum arcane shift forward again.
Yep.
So they try and look for the ulti, but he still got the flash. He still had a cleanse too. That's the Ezreal, right? It's so hard to get onto him.
You know, it is as they say in Sun Tzu's The Art of War, arcane shift forward.
Yes.
Yeah,
bait out the Nocturnal.
E forward.
Yeah.
Bait out the Nocturnal. You know, that's the rule number 10 of the Art of War, right?
Of course.
But yeah, Callum Coy actually, I think, has been doing a pretty good job of getting into the heads of UOFT because he has been absolutely bullying Lancrease in the mid lane, right? You know, he is so ahead as Ezreal. So especially, you know, even if Zeri has those kills, she really isn't going to be able to stand up to an Ezreal. And, you know, Zeri really can't stand up to an Ezreal all game unless it is on the all-in encounters, which is also very risky if you have someone like Zenden just standing next to Ezreal. So I think they have been doing a very good job of playing off this Ezreal prio.
Again,
yeah,
I think in general, right? Like that win con of having this global comp going for the double ults on the side lanes. They got like 2 kills onto Inexhaustive. 1 was traded back, but other than that, like they killed a tree a few times, but they haven't been able to get too much value as you see the Ezreal flank coming in, but TF, he should be able to, oh no. He has a TP, but now he's not going to have any time for it as now the tree gets its revenge. They're all killing him as TF just doesn't stand a chance.
Another shutdown in the hands of Callum Coy.
Wow,
Ezreal looking, you know, slowly and slowly. Like this Ezreal is looking like the one from last game, actually. But this time, you know, just on the side of Warriors as Warriors with a good timing attack. You know, there's no significant objectives that can be done on the side of UFT. You know, Baron is up, but if they're all topside, obviously that doesn't really matter as I think they have a good interval to make these plays. But Lancrease, you know, maybe a little bit of pent-up spite there, you know, saying like Ezreal was pushing me under this turret just 5 minutes ago. You know, I'm gonna push this too. As it looks like it's gonna be a mid-tier 2 trade for a top tier 2. Not the worst trade for UFT actually.
Yeah, I think as UFT you really want to take those. It's gonna be the tower trades coming out as now they're looking for Inexhaustive here. The dragon is up in less than a minute, so getting this pick onto Inexhaustive would be huge. And he's just he gets the World Ender off. The Fear is going to end up taking him down. Huge plays by UFT being able to get the pick onto the top laner. And he has the TP, so he'll be up 10 seconds after the Dragon. So maybe it's fightable, but it's going to be close. But yeah, another turret going down for UFT here.
Yeah, and one thing you got to notice is that Lancrease has been vacuuming up all the CS, all these turrets. So he's definitely gonna be you know, a formidable force. We mentioned Zeri doesn't really come online until at least 2 or at least 3 items, I would say, with the ultimate. But this Zeri is looking extremely accelerated this game, and I think Inexhaustive is probably yelling to his team, "Not again! You know, they're coming for me again." As
I mean, he's going the full squishy build, right? He's actually pretty easy to take down if you let him. So it was like they did get the pick, but they didn't quickly move the pace onto the Dragon. They rather ended up to take their backs and get the Zeri onto 2 items here. But now it's just going to be a good old 5v5 fight here as it gets started. The Bear going in. Notice being down, and that's going to be a quick kill. Zenden yoinking it away, and now it's a 5v4. You got TF and Aatrox in the top lane, both with their TPs ready to come in, but UFT is just going to have to end up walking out with nothing as now Waterloo on Soul Point.
Yeah, and good looks on the side. You know, top laners. You know, typically You know, they're the lane known for these
Oh, they're
one-on-one
looking.
fights, but Inexhaustive behind Lancrease with ultimate World Ender is going to be popped, and it looks like Inexhaustive is going to be charging his face onto the side of Zeri, but it looks like Nocturne comes down over top. Lancrease is going to go down. Lancrease is going to be able to kite this out. Inexhaustive goes down so low with Plex 2 charges on his ultimate, and Waterloo, that was really, really risky with Inexhaustive going in like a little bit of a madman, but they managed to live. They managed to make the play, and at the end of the day, it's going to be Blood going down once again. You know, not having the most fun time on this Nocturne pick. Oh, that's a lot of damage from inside of Lancrease. Is Callum going to E-shift?
I literally, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. Callum's waiting for it. He knows that Braum was nearby, but he did not care. The aggression by Callum and Waterloo. They're not happy with the Dragon. They want more. They're going for the Baron next, as now Nocturne, he's still in the fountain. And they're going to be looking to probably fight here. They're not going to be able to tank it up too much.
Yeah, and that is actually a huge, huge pick. You know, no Zeri means basically no damage for the side of UOFT, as all the ults are being chained on top. Ona is one scary ball here, as it looks like Notice super tanky, but you know, if you have 5 people wailing on you, you gotta go down, even if your name starts with a K and ends in a E, right?
Yeah.
That's a little bit of a hard bargain to drive, but it looks like Blood is back here. You can look for the potential steal. The Charm going to go down on top of Yuumi, as Braum is going to be next one to be popped, but the random card comes flying out of nowhere with the Paranoia, managed to take down Maokai. So a little bit of another stalemate. Not a stalemate, but this fight is going to be postponed to a later date.
Yeah, I mean, they're just using the Baron to bait out fights, right? They started up, UFT has to check in, and the tree just flashes forward and gets onto them. He does end up going down, but his engages have been so stellar, right? He's willing to put his body, sacrifice himself to get his team the kills, and they've just been piling up the kills, getting the kills onto specifically Callum, who's 5-0-5 right now.
Yeah, and Callum Coy has Muramana, has Ceruldas, has Essence Reaver. 1 Q from this guy, and you know, you're going to be seeing the pearly gates, right? And I think Lancrease definitely have not been able to bring out the full potential of these Zeri team fights, because what you want as Zeri is like a kind of a messy, big scale team fight where like all the stops are pulled on both sides, and where you have the potential to stack your ult, and you have the potential, you know, to kite out everybody and win. But I think Waterloo has been doing a very good job of these hit and run type of plays, especially with Maokai. You know, lock someone down, burst them real quick, and just run away. You know, like take the dub and leave.
Yeah, that's the key thing, run away. They don't let Zeri play her game, as now the Baron is being started up again. Is it going to be another bait? As Blood looking to check here, as Zenden waiting to pull the trigger, as oh my god.
This arcade shift has absolutely no fear behind it, but Zenden, remember, he still has the Maokai ult. The Nocturne is going to be channeled on top of the Ezreal. The arcade shift not up yet, but looks like Yomi Princess is on the flank, but the cleanse is used, and it looks like it's not going to be too much on the side of Warriors being able to channel. The ult is huge. Going on top, Notice is so tanky, but the flash, the gold card taken down, and Lancrease flashes forward, and it's going to be the Ezreal taken down, and UFT have managed to turn this fight, as it looks like it's going to be 4 on the side of UFT going down to Lancrease, and it is all on the shoulders out of Inexhaustive, and this Zeri is so annoying. It's like a little mosquito just pecking away at
Penta.
you. But he's going for the Penna. Yeah, Lancrease, the W is going to be popped. Inexhausted going to be running for the hills, and UFT have managed to turn this fight. You know, maybe Callum Coy cooked a little bit too hard and the kitchen burned down, you know, with these Eastern forwards. But yeah, Yuumi Princess, I think, with a really good gold card out of the vision.
Yeah, that was really good. The UFT's finally able to get onto Waterloo, pick up a lot of shutdowns, and able to win the fight. But honestly, I think they kind of greeted for the Penta a little bit. Not sure if they maybe could have gone for the Baron, but you know, Inexhaustive, he looked juicy. He flaunted himself out, trying to bait the Zeri towards it, but he's able to get out. No Baron going down, and now it's gonna be the Dragon fight next up on the table in 50 seconds. If Warriors get this, it is soul for them. So UFT definitely have to contest it.
Yeah, and you really can't count out the amount of disorientation that a Paranoia causes, especially in these team fights. I think Warriors have been playing this like they have the advantage, like they will win, you know, like 70% of these fights, but I think now they have to definitely be more prudent with what kind of tough fights they're allowing UFT to engage onto them.
Yeah, and you need to get onto the Zeri. She's 3.5 items right now. She hurts. The Wallabear, the Maokai have to get onto Lancrease, or Zeri will burn the team down. As oh my god, that Ezreal, there's some good poke going in there.
Yeah, 15 seconds on the Dragon means that Warriors is going to be looking for the Soul angle, but UFT potentially looking for a trade with the Baron and the Soul, as Looks like Paranoia is going to pop defensively on the side of UFT. I wonder if a re-engage is going to happen. Not really, but the blood charges out at the last second as Maokai ult absolutely huge. Hits everyone. Brahmin taking down really low, but it's going to be Zeri popping the ult, taking down the tree. And Doctrine is also going to go down as well, but you can't forget about these gold cards. Flashes our channel. Double kill for Zeri. As, we mentioned this again and again, but this Twisted Fate is so good at locking down these characters, and Zeri, it's like a layup, right? Twisted Fate, puts up the gold card, and Zeri just dunks on these guys with the ult, with the Q, and it's so hard. And with Onat's ult going out, looks like Soul is going to be denied by UFT.
Yeah, and like I talked about, that Zeri was free healing the entire fight, and if it's going to be a front to back like that, Lankrease is going to put out more damage than the Ezreal, straight up. And with that, it's going to be UFT taking this Dragon and extending this Dragon Soul game. As now, Baron is the next objective on the card. We've seen Waterloo, they're not afraid to go for it at any time, so they might look to bait out here and there again.
Yeah, and I think what really needs to be side on the side of Waterloo is they need to collapse simultaneously onto Zeri, because what we're seeing, the pattern we're seeing right now is that they go for the fight. The fight looks really good starting off, but because they don't have that like collapse on top of the carries, we see that as the fights drag on, like TF is throwing these gold cards around, and that is just such a game changer in these like fights where Zeri can just single target burst somebody with the ult pop. And the longer these fights drag on, the worse and worse it looks for Waterloo. So like all of these fights look really good like at the beginning, but definitely we see the power of the Twisted Fate, why he's a crazy yellow card throwing monster with a rapid fire cannon in the in the mid to late game.
Yeah, he's finding a lot of value on these gold cards, and in this next fight coming up, Zeri should hit. Yep, she has 4 items right now. Gonna be looking to get some lifesteal to finish off the build, but she has reached that point where we've talked about the Zeri is so scary, and it's gonna come down to whether they can lock her down. She has the cleanse, she has the flash. She's so safe. As double TP's coming in, they burnt the Nocturne ulti. They're pushing in to Waterloo as Blood, looking for Blood, but Zended gonna be flashing out. The TF on the ult has the gold card, looking for someone, anyone with a gold card, but Waterloo is able to kite them out. The Ezreal is blocked by the Braum, and now they're looking to re-engage. Ari with the charm, gets the Cassandre. They're all diving him. Cassandre goes down, and the Crypt Bloom filling up the rift as now Zeri, she's on the ult going, and they're gonna peel away. Gonna play it nice and slow, take the pick, and get out.
Yeah, and that's what we need from Waterloo. We mentioned that, right? The lockdown. The single target focus, the flash. Charm gonna go wide on the Zeri. Maybe that was to bait out the cleanse, but like we mentioned, if Waterloo can get on top of somebody and just kill them as a group and not let TF isolate you, I think they definitely have a chance in these fights, and that was a good example of that. But, Lankrease definitely, once the ult is popped, you gotta be very, very diligent to not play around that. But now the Baron is gonna be started up. A little bit of a gambit here. Teflex gonna TP back as Zenden is gonna be taken so low, and Zeri is here. The ult is halfway there, so Zeri ult is not gonna be a factor in this fight. So maybe that's the evidence Waterloo is unique to hit this Baron, but the standoff is. This is a knife edge. If TF gets a gold card, if Nocturne gets an ult, huge damage on the side of Blood. Lankrease is going to be halved out. The Blood attempts to steal, but it's going to be a little bit too late as Inexhaustive is going to be going on top. Q2 cuts Nocturne in half as Yuumi Princess is sprinting forward with the gold card, but Waterloo is looking for the simultaneous turn. The lockdown is on top of Zeri. Charm going out, and Callum Coy gets the shutdown, gets the kill onto Zeri, and now finally Waterloo have found a fight in their angle, as Notice is going to be the last one standing on the side of Waterloo. And that, like we mentioned, knife's edge on a fight. Zeri no ult, Onat, Blood dancing around for those Barons. Zended taking down so low. There were so many factors there that could have pushed the fight to either team, but Waterloo is going to be the ones coming out on top.
Yeah, and Callum Coy picking up the triple kill. He gets the tower, he gets the inhib, and they're just going to take that and back off. Huge swing to make the gold lead even again, but it's a 32-minute game. It's going to come down to who plays it better. In that fight, it was Waterloo, and I think it was literally like the Maokai ult on the edge catching the Zeri, and then Plex actually... I think it was Alter Flash charming her into the Ezreal EQ combo. So many layers that you just have to watch out for. Lankrease just did not get a chance to flash out and ends up going down, and that meant the Baron is theirs.
Yeah, and definitely very close, right? Again, these fights are very close. I think UOFT definitely played that fight, pretty well, to the best of their ability. But I think, like you mentioned, that Maokai catching that catching Lankries on the edge there. You know, these are the small things that can completely turn a fight around, and I think this is why it's so important to play around ult cooldowns as well. You know, we see that, you know, for most of that fight, Lankries didn't have that Zeri ult up, so he's unable to burst down the people that are actually running at him. So, you know, for this next Soul fight, however, it's going to be, you know, full deck on either side. We're going to have, most importantly, look at the flashes on the Zeri as
Oh my
blood
god, that
is
damage.
running away, but it's going to be so much damage. Zeri is here. The charm going to land. The Braum is going to be able to provide the peel. However, as Yumi Princess is so far, the gold card is locked in. He is behind. Callum Coy is going to take so much damage as notice. It is inexhaustive versus Zeri. The charm again misses, does not miss. Plex is the absolute MVP of these fights, as you know, Zeri, like we mentioned again and again, we have to look for Zeri this entire every fight. But the Ahri charms, this is almost like a point and click CC spell for
they're not done yet. They want more, but the UFT is going to be able to get out. But yeah, honestly, Lanker's overcooking a little bit there, dashing over the wall into an Aatrox, has to flash away, but there's a charm waiting for him on the other side. As Waterloo marching into the enemy base, they're going to take the inhib. There's still 20 seconds on this Zeri, the main carry of this late game team fight, and now they're looking into these Nexus towers. The minions walking in, doing the work. Most of UFT is left up though.
Yeah, and Waterloo has to be really, really careful because, you know,
there's a soul waiting for them.
Yeah, there's a soul waiting for them, right? They have to make sure that this is worth giving up the soul for. Sometimes if they go for the end and they get wiped by a Zeri coming out, you know, that could be bye-bye to the soul. So making the shrewd play, backing up, you know, securing the soul. And I think Cloud Soul, you know, very, very good on a lot of carries on Waterloo as well. But one more thing is Cloud Soul on Zeri is just kind of a nightmare. I think at that point it's a little bit like Exodia. If Zeri's running around at Mach 5 around a fight, it's a little bit too hard for Warriors to make, you know, CC attempts onto that thing. So I think this also opens up room for the Elder, the win condition.
Yeah, the main thing is it's Cloud Soul on the Volibear. That bear is going to be running at Mach 5 at the Zeri, and it really comes down to whether they can catch the Zeri, so Cloud Soul is just so important for them to get, and I really think this will turn the tide in these team fights. But yeah, now Waterloo going in for that last little tower standing outside the base at 1 HP. Going to be able to surely get that down and put out the pressure, as now UFT, maybe they can try and look for some flanks, as most of these fights, they have not been able to get onto the Ezreal. He is 10-1 right now, and he's outputting so much damage by going Navori's as well.
Yeah. Oh, and you can't forget about World Ender.
Of
World
course.
Ender as Aatrox, you know, like if with the Cloud Soul, you know, we actually see a lot of funny fights in these skirmishes where Inexhaustive is the running at Lankries, and that forces him to kind of play more conservatively. So definitely Cloud Soul is going to help out with that, as the Siege is going to be going down onto this final inhibitor, final turret in this bot lane. But we talked about this too. You said UFT need to find a flank, need to find an alternate angle, because as a death ball, Waterloo are so powerful. They have so much CC. Their carries are relatively tanky and mobile, especially with Zeri and Ahri. Sorry, not Zeri and Ahri, Ezreal and Ahri having the mobility, and the rest of the team having so much lockdown and so much mobility. So if they don't find them isolated, it's gonna be really tough for UFT to, you know, make a comeback play.
Yeah, and now the Maquail is coming in just as a zoning ultimate so that they can get these tower. The Braum ult coming out, the gold card hitting, and Zeri popping the ultimate. The tree flashes away. Nocturne is charmed up, goes down into the GA, and now Waterloo hitting notice, slowly backing off. They want to get the Zeri ult gone, and they do. That was the huge turn that UFT had to look for. Ezreal ult gets spell shielded. Plex looks for the charm. They're going on the Braum. There's no Zeri ult. Braum gonna back pull die, gonna end up going down. Notice is next on the board. They do get a kill back, and now Zeri is cooking. Gold card looking for on the TF. Blood on the side, and Waterloo slowly. Oh my god, that damage! Pledge looking for the kill. Onat running him down. The Storm barely misses out, and now it's Notice's turn. He's slowly gonna get it chunked out to Calipcoin, shifting forward. Oh, Cleanse not right. Onat with the flash. Lankries gets charmed. TF next on the board. Everyone is flashing forward here, as now that's surely end of the game. The bear is running at him. Gold card stops him, but Nexus towers cannot be stopped from going down. Oh my god, he ends up going down. Nexus left up 3v2 here. Nocturne ult back in. Plex ends up going down here, but Kalimkoi is still alive. Shifts forward. Oh my god, he ends the game here. 38-minute banger, but Waterloo end up taking the win.
And oh my god, what a team fight that was. That was, you know, that was like a game of Uno. It's like Uno reverse, no you, no you, no you. Like all the stops were pulled out by both sides there. You know, flashes, cleanses, right? You know,
Oh my god.
you think for a moment that like like Zenden has been caught out, but then Waterloo turn it.
Yeah.
But then it looks like UOFT has actually like secured another kill, and Zeri's gonna wipe up everybody. And TF throws the gold carp, and the cleanse comes out, and then another turn, another turn, another turn. At the end of that slugfest is gonna be Waterloo coming out on top. With their team comp being suited for these death ball fights and exhausted with the Cloud Soul, it's gonna be a little bit too much of a barrier for UOFT to overcome. But wow, what a crazy game, and what a crazy fight to end that game off with.
Yeah, and with that, it's going to be 1-1 in the series. The Clash of Titans, the rivalry that we have been speaking about, is delivering with the game 2. Waterloo is bringing it back, and now it's going to come down to one more game to decide who gets to the top of the group here. Both these teams 5-0, Waterloo, UOFT, everything is on stakes for this next game coming up. We'll see you in just a little bit.
and welcome back to game number 3 of the rivalry of the century, UOFT versus Waterloo versus UOFT. It has been an absolute slugfest last game. What can I say? Banger. That last game was a banger. All the team fights, bangers. And I hope that this continues, this trend continues to this game, as I'm so excited to see what kind of picks and bans, like what kind of comps, what kind of strats these teams have for the last game, of this pivotal series in CLOL.
Yeah, and these drafts have been interesting, right? Two picks that have been dominating in the series are the Volibear and the Ezreal. So much early presence. You get the push, you get the prio, and you're still doing pretty well later on into the game too. So going into this next game, we'll have to see what the teams end up prioritizing. This Volibear, I think, needs to be pick or ban. It has just been doing so well. We thought the Nocturne was good into it, but as the game went on, it couldn't really do much.
Yeah, and we see definitely so much flexibility too on the side of
Mm-hmm.
Volibear. They have a lot of options, especially they have a really good dive tool built in
Mm-hmm.
to their kit. So we saw Nocturne last game struggling to dive Inexhaustive over and over again. I think Inexhaustive got ulted like 6 times, and he's managed to fend them off like to the best of his ability while Volibear was making plays around the map and taking objectives and such. And I think like you mentioned, Volibear is going to be definitely a highly contested pick. I'm also interested to see actually. I know this wasn't the highlighted pick of last game, but TF and Karma, I think that's such an interesting dynamic mid lane because we saw that a lot of the comeback of the mid game fights, UFT was mounted off the back of the gold cards, and obviously Zeri. We can't forget about Zeri, but
Yeah.
but I think the hidden MVP of UFT's comeback there was the gold card. So I think definitely interesting to see what kind of adaptation will be had mid lane as well.
Yeah, and of course, in that bot lane, right, the Ezreal is such a consistent and safe ADC in a meta where you need to kind of leave the ADC a bit alone on themselves, but he still has the ability to just E forward and just get a double kill like they did, I think, 5 minutes into the game. So I really think that's like honestly a pretty blindable ADC that you can just pick up. It's so strong early and mid game and can still be very serviceable late game too.
Yeah. And one more thing is that we definitely saw why Inexhaustive is Aatrox's banned that game.
Yeah.
So I think when we're talking about like priority picks and bans, I think that's definitely one of them. I think if you're UFT, especially Aatrox is such a blindable champion in top lane, one of the rare picks that are very blindable. So definitely something to be wary about here. But am I getting a little bit of deja vu as Ashe, Smolder,
Hey, it's the same
Senna?
stuff.
Yeah, same stuff.
I know, but we said those two picks, right? We'll see if Warriors just want to trade them or ban either one of them out. I think the Volibear is very first pickable. The Ezreal maybe can be punished with some more hyper scaling ADCs like the Jinx. But yeah, the Karma also going out. They definitely don't want UFT to get that one.
Yep, and I think UFT's bans actually have been pretty static these 3 games. It's always been Smolder, Smolder, Senna, Talia. Definitely these are picks you don't want to give the Warriors. As
Ooh, TF.
we talked about this, right? But TF Karma, I think definitely have been the backbone of UFT's play. So I think this is Warriors putting up a little bit of a challenge to UFT, saying, so if these 2 picks are banned, what are you gonna play, right? I want to see you pull out something instead of us having to adapt to your mid lane pick. So very very interesting strategy by Warriors here that opens up a lot of possibilities. But we do notice Volibear is open.
Yeah, but they're actually hovering the Maokai. The Maokai's always been a first pick for the past few patches with how strong it has been. It has been getting nerfed repeatedly, but it is still really strong. And the UFT, they liked it. They saw what it did last game. It was just so good at insta engaging, point and click, and the ulti too. But Warriors, they got the bear.
Yeah, they got the bear indeed, and it's gonna be, last time it was Maokai and the bear on the same team, and maybe that was too unbearable
Oh,
for UFT. So maybe this is something that they want to take the Maokai at least if they're gonna have Volibear, because yeah, like we mentioned, if you have 2 tanks that are really good at lockdown, really good at running at you, then it's really hard for any carry on your team to survive, even if you're tanky. Like it doesn't really matter how tanky you are if there's like a 10-1 Ezreal hitting you while you just can't move in place, right? So,
Oh, that's interesting. The Cassante, actually, we saw him blind pick the Aatrox last time, but this time I think they're maybe trying to take away the Cassante from UFT
right.
and saying you can't play the Aatrox and win the matchup like I did. And yeah, Cassante is still a very good blind pick, not really easily punishable, but yeah, the Ezreal, UFT is going to be taking it this time.
Yep, and Ezreal, we saw both games that this was a pick that amounted a significant lead in the early game and ended up snowballing the game out of control on both sides. So UFT saying that, this is a solved equation and I'm going to just play if it's not broken, I'm going to keep playing it, right? And definitely I think this is UFT taking Waterloo's bot lane from last game. So I'm wondering
Wow.
since okay, well,
Aatrox.
they don't want to.
Yeah, Notice is like, I'll do it, bro. I'll do it.
Yeah. Notice is like, you think I can't play Aatrox? I'll play Aatrox and win this matchup. So super exciting matchup in the top lane there. Let's see who is the better side of this matchup. If you win this like lane, you can be like, I'm the better player now.
Yeah. And I want to see what they pick third here because I really thought it would be Ezreal or some other ADC in the second point there, but they clearly have some answer to Ezreal that they want to look at in game 3, and it is going to be the Varus. Now, Varus is an ADC that can give you so much priority in that early game, and it can push the Ezreal out of lane, especially with a strong poke support as well, but it still has that versatility. It can go on-hit, lethality, or crit. Just be anything your team needs you to be.
Yeah, and this is definitely a new dynamic in this bot lane matchup. I think, like we mentioned, we have to look at the variables of this bot lane because last game, Zeri Braum, not the most traditional bot lane, so that was kind of the mystery card UFT pulled out, and to their credit, right, that actually did almost win them the game. So yeah, definitely bot lane is the variable to watch out for here, as these bans pretty consistent on the side of Warriors Gold as well. The Sin Zhao always getting banned this second round, and UFT saying let's lower the mid lane pool a little bit, no Ari for you, and Warriors also saying okay, then no Hui for you as well, maybe potentially.
Yeah, no way he gets that, and Orianna might be another ban that UFT might want to consider because it is something they always usually just pick in the first stage of the draft, but has been left up for these other power picks that they want to get before they get banned out.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, you caught it. You caught it.
But yeah, it's actually gonna be, a lot of mid laners gonna be banned out on the side of UFT. So this is a game where we have to see
There
the
you
champ
go,
pools,
Orianna.
but you can't forget Orianna is still alive, and Warriors always happy to just blind pick this. And UFT potentially, you could always see something like an Azir. If you're fielding a little, there it is.
Yep.
A matchup where
Crazy prediction, bro.
I'm what can I say? My brain is too large to be casting in here, but I just want to say that I think Orianna is your very traditional matchup. I think people do say it's slightly Orianna favored in the lane, but definitely a matchup that can be overcome by skill. It's like if you're someone like Faker that can play both sides of the matchup and win, you got no problems here. But definitely a little bit of lane prior going to Orianna, but a little bit more late game carry going to Azir and playmaking potential to Azir.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting that they're putting the Maokai into the jungle here and Nautilus support. I think they want to get more CC and engage potential, but I really think the Maokai nerfs that have come out in this last patch affecting his base armor really move him more to that support role. So Maokai is a much weaker jungler than he was previously. So we'll see if that ends up biting them in the back or if that CC overload can really help them. But Braum, really good pick coming here to help secure the safety of both their carries, Varus and Orianna.
Yeah, and we did see last game that Braum did a pretty good job on the side of UFT to somewhat counteract the effects of
all so many Ezreal ults.
Yeah, all the Ezreal ults, all the Maokai ults, so many things you could block for your team, and especially if you're playing a comp with Varus or Orianna who aren't the most mobile characters in the world, I think a little bit of insurance is always nice.
Yeah, and it looks like it's just going to be a pretty typical comp for both teams with some engage, some poke, some DPS. So really will come down to who plays better in this game. As here we are, guys, game 3 as the champs are loaded into the rift. This decides everything. Who's going to top the group? Who's going to be 6-0 while the other team gets a terrible 5-1 scoreline?
Oh, no. You really don't want to be 5 and oh no.
But yeah, and it looks like it'll be a standard 5-point again. I do want to see some level 1 action. We'll see. Ooh, they're actually looking for something. If the Braum Q lands, that can be a world of trouble. As the Ezreal, he's dancing around, is going to be able to get away from the Braum Q. They might try to just get some vision here, figure out where the Maokai's starting.
Yep, and it looks like 5 people of are gonna storm into the red, blink down a little ward and run away. As Blood is gonna counter ward on, so both junglers' reds are going to be warded. As like we mentioned, with Maokai's nerfs and with it being so difficult to kind of jungle and especially for against the Volibear to win these engages, I think tracking is gonna be the name of the game. If Volibear ends up on the same side as Maika and a fight breaks out, it could spell disaster. So Got to watch out for that.
Yeah, Volley definitely wants to get in there, pick some fights. While Maokai, he has the ability to start some really great fights and make some great picks. But if the numbers are even, the definitely advantage goes to Waterloo.
Yep. And in bot lane, also the name of the game is Bush Prio, as
Oh,
Lankry's gonna walk into the bush and then losing bone plating, taking huge damage. Is that GG for lane? No. And the hook goes wide as bone plating gonna be popped out on both sides here, as a little bit of a trade going on here, as both bot lane are gonna be racing to this level 2 power spike in those sense.
Yeah, both AC just trying to kill these minions as quick as possible, as the level 2 just gives you such a good all-in compared to the other team, as both junglers starting off in that top side, going top to bot, just like the other 2 games here.
Yep, inexhaustive. Very, very, very familiar sight, I think, from last game. You know, Cassante, Aatrox trading all day, every day. Just the roles were flipped this time, but... And one thing you have to one thing I think about Azir is that he's opted for fleet footwork, so he's opted to stay in lane a bit. I think you know, one build that maybe I would have liked to see is actually tank Azir. That's been doing pretty well these days with the grass. I think gives a lot of more laning power and a lot of potential to make these plays against so much lockdown. Or you have Cassante, you have Volibear, you have Orianna, you have Vera, so much lockdown. So if you're going that tank build, it is a lot more potential to, you know, do those Shurima shuffles and not get punished. But as we spoke about this, Onat going for a flash QW onto Yuumi. She's going to get taken down so low, as the flash has to be invested from the mid and jungle. But yeah, if you're Azir against this Orianna, losing that flash is a lot of pressure lost in the mid lane.
Yeah, and I love to see that, right? When you're a Volibear, you gotta make these trades happen. As another trade going down in the bot lane, the Braum Q gonna be taken down onto Lily here, but the Maokai is coming. They see Blood. Onat's not far behind. The Q gets tagged again, but Ezreal can E out. Blood is next on the list here. Volibear cannot get the stun out, and everyone's just slowly gonna walk away.
Yeah, and there's kind of an example of a fight where the Braum passive comes in huge, because
they're
UOFT
going
has to
again.
be so conservative, but Blood is going to go around again for the run back. The flash is going to be used on the side of Zend, and the stun goes out as well, as Onat also going to come back bot, as Nautilus does have the flash. Callum Coy is going to pop the ghost, so they're looking for a little bit of a chase here. Remember, Onat has no flash, so if Nautilus wants the flashes, he can get out of this fight, as Blood low, Nautilus low, Lankry's low, as exciting fight from bot lane, but no kills just yet.
Yeah, again, that knife's edge that we've been talking about. Both these teams are playing so well. No one ends up going down, but the good old Crab, I think, will end up going to Onat here.
Yep, and I think especially, you know, with that outcome of the fight, with how healthy he is, Onat has a lot of options. What he can do, he can just do a full clear bot side and, you know, potentially look for a cheese gank, get a nice back off, you know, do a standard clear into maybe a top gank. So a lot of options here for Onat. So, and you got to remember that Yuumi Princess also has no flash, so a repeat gank on mid is also always possible.
Yeah, exactly, especially when Orianna hits 6 and provide that CC for the Volibear. And they're gonna... Oh, Bully actually moving up. And this is kind of what the Ezreal allows you to do, right? He's so safe. He still has both the sums, which means Nautilus can look for these plays here. As Plax, he has to flash. Great play by UOFT there.
Yeah, and we talked about Azir no flash, but now also Orianna no flash. And, you know, we know that Orianna does not have as much mobility and escape as Azir does in lane. So definitely, you know, more than making up for that early game gank by Onat.
Yeah, and now Blood has got to have his eyes set on the mid lane, as he can quickly just flash root onto Plex, and it should be honestly just a free kill. There's no counterplay if you can get that off.
Yeah, and we do have to see what kind of objective both teams are going to be playing for here. Blood actually going to start up the dragon, so you know, maybe, you know, with the knowledge that there is no Orianna ult and then the bot lane has the prio, maybe he's going to be hoping to get this done as fast as possible. But it looks like actually Onat is going to be running for this dragon, and with 3.5 HP left, there is potential to contest here still.
Yeah, I think he's thinking about it. They see the HP. It might be too little too late here, though, as Onat, oh, he's looking for it. And Maokai ends up getting the kill onto the dragon, but Bully end up going down here. Blood, he has a Braum passive on it. Can he flash away? Not in time, as Lankry, surely he can flash. Yeah, he's got his E. But Callum Coy flashing forward, gonna get the Braum passive onto him. The cleanse is not enough, as Callum Coy gets a double kill in the fight.
Yeah, and UOFT managed to secure the dragon, but at what cost, right? You know, I think Waterloo know that, you know, there's no summoner spells on Nautilus there. You know, there's not, and with the Braum passive, and that's gonna be channeling the E!
Oh my god,
Yuumi
he's
Princess
crazy!
is just hit by a random bolt of lightning. I don't think he expected that. they're getting jump scared by the Volibear, and now that opens up a lot of potential as well. You know, this Volibear getting strong means that, you know, on these objective fights like the Grub, this is going to be, Yubi Princess is going to be kind of thrown off timing.
Yeah, this man was just browsing the shop on his iPad and then he gets struck by lightning. What can you do, right? But with that, it's going to be the Grub Fry going over to Waterloo, as Inexhaustive is also a bit healthier. And Onat's going to get the one Grub and look to get out of there as Blood is on his way. That first Grub gives you most of that XP. So Onat's Callum Coy with yet another kill here.
Yeah, and it looks like Bully went in for a little bit of an engage, but Braum manages to live, as now Blood going to be starting a fight onto Onat. This is the cheekiest tree that I've ever seen in my life, but, you know, Volibear going to be forced back. You know, he hasn't backed yet. He hasn't, he only has boots up right now. He doesn't have that many cooldowns, that much health, so he's going to be forced off his jungle a little bit, as Blood's still level 4. We talked about this, the Flash W still available.
Yeah, and you just cannot do anything. Oh my god, yeah, okay, Bully does get the hook there. And Plex had a good ulti, actually, got the shockwave to get some damage across, get the slow onto them, and almost walked out. But there was a Nautilus coming in too, and it's just unable to play the game there.
Yeah, and I think Plex would have actually lived without the Nautilus being there, but, you know, that was a good attempt, but definitely a good play by UOFT, right? Like, you have to play around those flash cooldowns, especially in the early game. Otherwise, you don't want to give up these flashes for free and just end up, like, losing everything. So, good on UOFT there with a nice play.
Yeah, and looking at the Varus build too, right? We talked about the versatility of the character. He is going for a lethal tempo on hit kind of build, which scales a lot better than the lethality, which is to like get ahead in lane. But despite this, he's already 3-0, which bodes really well for the scaling for later on in these time fights, where he has to cut through the Aatrox, Maokai, and Nautilus.
Yeah, and I think definitely, you know, Varus with the passive has a lot of, you know, like, does pretty fairly well against these tank characters as well, and especially, you know, for someone like a pseudo tank like Aatrox, like I mean, considering if he's not going the full squishy build, but yeah, Varus going on hit is definitely going to be a lot of late game insurance on the side of Waterloo, and especially since he's already picked up 3 kills. I think Calum gonna be very happy about how this game is gonna be transitioning. He also gives him a lot of, you know, early fight power, which you might not typically expect, you know, if UOFT draft like a strong skirmish comp.
Yeah, exactly. And now Onat mainly playing around that bot side. He doesn't really have to care about how many grubs get taken by Blood, because he's got 2 of them, which means he can't reach that good old 5 grub mark. And Inexhausted taking a little bit of damage, but he's going to be chilling here, as now they're looking for a little death bush here. Bromalt gets popped, Nautilus gets stunned, Ezreal gets blocked, and Nautilus flashing out. But does Callum have a Q? He's looking for the Nautilus, he's channeling, and it does not land. But, oh, here comes the bear here. The Ezreal's under the tower. Flash onto him. He has the ult for the tower if needed, too. Okay, does end up ulting out. I thought he might greet the ult and ended up dying there, but in the end, that is another kill over to Waterloo.
Yeah, and that is the reason for the Brown pick, you know? They wait in the bush without vision, and, you know, the bot lane comes up to check, and as soon as the fight breaks out, Braum ult on, and it just pops the shield, and Ezreal can do absolutely nothing. You know, Braum just stands there like, no.
Yeah.
And then Ezreal just dumps all the spells into Braum, but, you know, at the end of the day, Callum Coy escapes unharmed, as, you know, nice look by Onat to continue snowballing this lead in bot lane.
Yeah, and now this Varus is 4-0. He should have the Blade of the Rune King complete upon his back here as he is channeling. Yeah, Plaque's going to get his back stopped, though. Oh, no, doesn't quite have it yet, but the next dragon is coming up soon here. We'll see probably both teams still look to maybe fight for it. The Varus and Volibear are really fed. Going to give them good advantages in the fight, but they haven't completed their items, so it's not completely undoable.
Yep, and I think definitely we have to look for these ults, especially, you know, Maokai ult is still taking down on the cooldown, Stream Shuffle still taking down as well, and Orianna has actually kept the shockwave, so I think this will be very, very important for this next fight.
Yeah, and right now the Vision's actually on the side of UOFT. They have worded up the whole area while the Waterloo bot lane were backing, but Callum is going to be looking to push the lane, looking to get some prio while you got both the junglers hovering around here. I believe Volley has started the dragon here as Plex is hovering over with his prio, and it should be theirs to take.
Yep, and it's going to be with Chain of Corruption, with Glacial Fissure. You know, it's going to be very, very difficult for you know, UOFT to make any meaningful engagements on the side of Waterloo, so they have to give this up, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And Exhaustive checking on the grubs, saying, you know, is there a sneaky guy doing the grubs here? But, you know, a little bit of a neutral state at the moment now.
Yeah, exactly. That dragon gonna end up going down, but the second round of grubs are still up. We'll see if anyone wants to go for them. Onak can look to get those 3 to get the 5 needed, as a little bit of trading going on, but nothing too serious here. Azir does have the flash. Ooh, and Exhaustive looking for the ulti here. He's going in on notice. Aatrox's ult is popped too. The world is trying to be ended, but he's running away right now as, oh my god. And Exhaustive is actually doing so much damage. Notice not even the Q's heal actually doesn't heal him much as Blood is coming in with the Maokai ult, so he has to ghost out and run for his life.
And look at the schmooze by Inexhaustive,
Yeah.
you know, the ghost dives into Aatrox's face, you know, W's to not get hit by the Q3, and as soon as he sees the Maokai ult, he managed just to dip, and I see Blood is going to be looking for the dive here. Inexhaustive, very, very hard target to dive. Obviously, Maokai can't tank this turret as Yubi Princess is also joining the fight. Another turret shot is going to actually take down Maokai. A little bit of a misplay there. You know, Maokai can swap the turret aggro with the W, but I think they were getting a little bit too desperate to get the kill on Inexhaustive, and that trade means that there's going to be you know, plays made across the map. You know, Plex is going to be able to get a little bit of turret damage as now Volibear is here to back up the Orianna.
Yeah, Plex is looking to get out of there. They do spot Onat here too, and there's a little bit of a scary spot. Plex gets ulted. Here comes Yumi Princess teleport coming in, but Plex is going to end up going down here. Now it's going to be an Exhaustive trying to help Onat get out here, as Onat not that tanky yet. Going to get CC'd up. The Azir shuffle into Blood, and Blood gonna pick up 1 kill, and Inexhaustive also gonna be going down here too. Really big plays by UOFT to use the map rotation to their advantage.
Yeah, and I think Waterloo definitely bit off more than they could chew. I think, you know, with the Inexhaustive dive going a little bit botched for the side of UOFT, I think they could have taken, you know, their winnings, could have taken their little advantage and been happy with that. But I think Waterloo know that they're strong, so they want to make these plays, but
yeah,
a little bit greedy. You know, still the early game, you can't 1v4, you can't 2v4, and UOFT doing a good job of collapsing and making the best of whatever that play brought them.
Yeah, and you can see they got that Volibear bounty too, which is really huge to get. I'm pretty sure it went out to either Lankrise or Yumi Princess, but you're okay with it going to either of them, honestly. But yeah, Ezreal's still going to be stacking up the tier. Azir wants to get to that second item as soon as possible, but they're really picking up the power into their carries now for the upcoming team fights.
Yeah, you can't forget, you know, if you're Waterloo, you can't really forget about how much power, you know, when Azir or Nautilus, they can keep you in the same location, you know, for 10 years, right? And so if these fights break out, there's no easy way to get away. So, you know, once you commit to a fight, you got to be ready to die or ready to at least fight it out.
Yeah, and you can see the top laners just love battling it out, and you can see Bully waiting for them to take 1 step too forward and just go in onto Inexhaustive if he does.
Yep, and it looks like Zenden is going to be forcing what an prediction onto the Ezreal, and it looks like Braum passive is ticking down. Kalimpoy has the ghost pop, and that was an amazing Bravo to pop to predict the arcane shift, and it looked okay for Lankries there with the cleanse and all, but I think he was so caught off guard that ult predict that bot turret is going to be the first turret going down as Blood trades up the Rift Herald, but Inexhaustive taking solo knowledge just completely demolishes Inexhaustive's health bar. Where did this guy go?
Yeah, notice using that Profane Hydra power spike to absolutely demolish Inexhaustive in the top lane there. But it's going to be the bot lane tower also going down. Plays being made across the map here as now Waterloo looking on this mid lane. Azir is really low. If a Varus ult... Oh, the poke... It's... Nautilus gonna end up going down here. The Maokai ult comes in a little bit too late here as Azir also has to back off. They're gonna be looking for this mid tower next.
Yeah, and we keep seeing this happen and again, but you cannot ignore the Braum passive, right? Like typically, you know, in these angles, you'd expect you can like whack Waterloo a little bit and like walk out scot-free, but with Braum passive as a factor in these plays, you cannot underestimate, number one, the damage it does, which is deceptively a lot, and number two, the lockdown and the amount of follow-up can happen behind it. And I think Warriors are making definitely great use of this Braum pick this game.
Yeah, and I just want to mention that that next kill that they got was also onto Kalimpoy, so it is going to be all about this Varus. And Varus isn't Ezreal. He's a target that can be collapsed, can be taken down. There's 2 point-and-click CCs on the side of UOFT, so they're going to look to use that on Varus in these upcoming team fights, and Zenden's got to keep him safe as well as he can.
Yep, and Herald's gonna be popped on the side of UFT as Waterloo is converging on this mid fight. The
Ooh, he's
little
drifting.
bit of a drift play coming on the side of UFT, but CY Blood has cooked a little bit too hard there as he shows off his fancy drift kick. He's in the parking lot, he's doing donuts, he does a fancy little drift.
Yeah,
and
then the cops show
and
up.
the cops show up and just like immediately put him in handcuffs. Like you cannot do that here as Waterloo gonna be picking up the second dragon, and this Infernal Soul is gonna look mighty scary on all kinds of from Waterloo here.
And now they're looking to make a play out to Inexhausted. The TPs are being matched, so it looks like it'll just be the tower that ends up going down as the Shockwave does end up missing. Huge engage, and Bully gonna end up catching Plex here as you're looking for the soldiers to push forward, but Plex, oh, can the soldiers mate? No, they cannot, but Inexhausted in a little bit of a tough spot. Zenden comes to his support, is gonna be the top tower that goes down, but honestly nothing else on the end of it. The Infernal does end up going down to Warriors, but it is only still the second one.
But you gotta notice mid-tier 1 actually went down during that
that's
scramble
true.
in the top lane, so Warriors pretty happy about, I would say. I think, these Nautilus engages have been so scary, and just as I say, right, that has been so scary this all game. They invest the teleport, both teams invest the teleport tops, for that play, but at the end of the day, Warriors are the ones who can secure this turret and push their lead a little bit further.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to have to see how well Callum does in this game. You can see his flash can get forced out just like that. Anyone needs to just threaten, and he has to respect it. He has no mobility of his own.
Yeah, and he does have the ghost, but no cleanse this game, so he has to be very, very careful. Especially his team does a decent job at peeling him, especially with Braum, especially with Volibear, especially with Cassante. There's a lot of tanky people that can surround him, but a Shurima shuffle over top, I think that's what's happened to Ruler,
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
that Azir Varus making a little bit of history here and there.
so you don't want to get Rulered,
Yeah.
or you don't want to get Fakered, whatever the name of
Well,
that play
Faker
would
got
be.
him back in the
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
So,
so.
yeah, as you can see, the Varus can get the Azir, the Azir can get the Varus. We'll see what ends up happening in this game, as now we're 18 minutes in. Walu are a little bit ahead in gold here, most of that being onto Callum, and he's going to be the president that they got to protect in this upcoming fight.
Yeah, and Rageblade actually online for Callum as well. So the DPS out of this man, if allowed, is going to be absolutely crazy. And you got to remember that Chain of Corruption is really, really great lockdown tool, really, really great self-heal tool. Has a little bit of a skirmish going down here, but Braum does not care. The Glacial Fissure got to be channeled. You can't cleanse a knockup as maybe it is Nautilus going to be dying for the sins of Lancrease as Zenden running onto Lancrease, trying to pop the passive. And wow, these fights have, exhibit a really similar pattern. UFT want to make a play, and then Braum just stands there and holds up his shield and then absorbs all the damage and then counterattacks, and UFT is just absolutely swept away by these counterattacks of Waterloo, looking very, very good as Callum Coy is picking up kill after kill after kill.
Yeah, honestly, like, props to Zenden. These Bravos looking crazy. Hitting them on the edge also gives you a much harder knockup onto the Ezreal, so Lancrease has just not been able to play too much as Zenden is just in his mind. But yeah, as you can see, this Ezreal is not as fed as the other two games. He cannot play like as cockily this time, and he's getting punished for it so much. But yeah, like we've seen in game 1 and 2, Ezreal brought so much prio, so much ability to poke, but he was ridiculously fed in all of those early games. And when he's not, you can see what actually ends up happening.
And that's the problem with Ezreal, is that if you don't end up, building small leads around the map, if you end up falling behind a little bit, actually, you are not getting through tanks as Ezreal, right? Like that, if Cassante and Volibear are just standing there, it is so hard for Ezreal to make any kind of play as Callum pops the ghost, and it looks like Notice has to pop World Ender and run away as well, as this Braum is like Thanos. He's so scary.
Oh, Plex in a little bit of trouble as the tree roots are coming for him. Plex is not able to get out as the hook hits. Blail is following up. Lancrease ease forward, and Plex going to end up going down along with that mid tower. Great play by UFT there.
And they're looking for more. They're looking to put the Azir turret down and going to actually go for tier 2. I think Waterloo didn't expect this kind of aggression coming out from the side of UFT. They're not making too many counter punches around the map just because of the state of the waves. And I think UFT, really, really smart play, manages to suddenly swing the gold back in their favor.
Yeah, that was a huge play. They got 2 towers like that. Yuumi looking for a little bit more, but he has a tower to back him up. Ona looking for him because there's no E, but the tower is going to help him keep him safe. But yeah, Dragon in 40 seconds, huge gold swing. They're going to be able to base and buy. That's the key thing. And now this fight can be anyone's. Both have 37k. It's going to be so close. It's going to come down to who ends up playing it better.
Yep, and you know, in these times you have to look where the gold is, right? For UOFT, most of this gold is dispersed around their carry, so Aatrox, you know, Ezreal, Azir, they all have the potential to win a fight and swing it to their favor, but you have to make sure that Callum Coy is dead because, you know, if Callum Coy manages to get if he manages to get free damage on these frontline fights, then no matter how many items you have on your carries, I think this Varus can take over the entire game. So you have to be very, very careful, as 2 seconds on the Dragons and all ults up on both sides mean that, except for depth charge, but all these ults up mean that Callum Coy is going to be caught out by the dredge line here. He has to be on the run. Orianna, they're all here to bail him out as he's kiting for his life here. He's actually going to be taken down. The shutdown is huge going on to Ezreal, and I think UOFT made a really good vision play there. They sit in that bot bush, you know, Waterloo on both sides of them, and Callum Coy just walk into Nautilus and it's just over.
Yeah, that was the one thing that UOFT had to look for, and they found it, which means they're going straight for the purple worm on the top side of the map. This Baron is going to be theirs.
Yeah, and purple worm is, you know, this is the objective, right? 22 minutes in, purple worm into a potential dragon to deny the soul point. This is absolutely huge for UOFT here, and I think, you know, Waterloo have to be more diligent. They have to. I think that was a play that you really can't afford to make, right? I don't think they just expected it. They completely caught with their pants down, and if you're playing a game with such a one-man carry, you can't let that happen.
Yeah, and they still have to prio for this Dragon too. They're going to start it up right away. As Waterloo, they're going to be looking to push up mid and slowly come, but it might be too little too late, as they're just getting this Dragon down so quickly.
Yeah, and you have to remember the shutdown actually went to Ezreal, so he's definitely back in the game. Now, Drag going to be taken down Maokai, but it's going to be Waterloo on the chase here. They want to say something about this fight. They want to fight this back. Lancrease is on the sideline, going to get flash queued, but Yumi Boys takes down Cassante. Oliver going to go so low as well, and it looks really, really good for UOFT as the fight drags on. That Glacial Fisher manages to find two as the fight is going down, with Azir does so much damage. Ezreal snipes the Volibear as well, and Waterloo is going to be wiped off the map. I think they were a bit angry at that Dragon play. You know, they want to take the fight, but UOFT managed to turn this fight, and we mentioned this before, the carries, the gold, it's all there, you know, right? It's all in the right places, so Waterloo can't underestimate UOFT, and they might potentially play for this inhibitor. And
Flash ult by Yumi Princess. I believe Orianna still got the wave, so they're going to have to end up waiting for the next one. They're not going to be able to end the game or anything, I'm pretty sure. Getting the wave was crucial but they're going to end up getting the inhib and walking out with the huge victory. They've got a 7k gold lead just like that.
And this is absolutely devastating for Waterloo. You know, like you mentioned, the gold lead just went from something like 100 gold, you know, back and forth to a sudden 7k gold lead, and everyone in UOFT is just back and bought items. Look at the amount of gold on Azir and Ezreal. You know, we were talking about how fed this Varus was, but Ezreal is just almost at the same level of gold as he is, and so is Azir. This is looking really, really dire.
Yeah, that huge shutdown that he picked up, and that's the power of the Ezreal, right? He might be behind, but he's not out of the game. They tried to focus him. They use his their flashes on him, but he's just able to flash out of the way and come back and pick up the kills on the side. The safety that this character brings, we'll see if Inexhaustive can do the same, as now they're both looking on him. He's trying not to yield. The Nautilus gets the hook, and Yumi Princess going to be able to pick up the kill.
He yielded.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think definitely, I think one thing I do want to say about this game is that Cassante has not been looking very good this series.
No,
right?
the nerfs from the past patch, you can see they've affected him so much.
I definitely think that, you know, last game, you know, a lot of it was actually won on the back of Inexhausted playing the Aatrox, you know, absorbing so much side lane pressure. But now we see that, you know, with Cassante, he's not that tanky anymore. He doesn't do that much damage anymore. And most of all, he feels a little more clunky to play, right? He's not as mobile, and I think that definitely reflects here, as Inexhaustive just can't tank the pressure like he did before, and I think that really, really shows, as, you know, Blood is just able to make plays all around the map.
Yeah, exactly. And now the Baron buff might be out, but a hook is found onto Plyce. The Nautilus ult follows up. Braum comes in for the shield with a huge ulti. Plyce gets the kill. They pick up another, and now UFT's on the run. They're looking at Blood. They're looking at Lankrise. The Bear ulting on top of them gets the shutdown onto Lankrise, and the tree is next on the board. It's just another turn. Just again, Waterloo fighting back.
Yeah, Waterloo sees their opportunity and goes for it, right? This Nautilus hook, these Nautilus hooks have been working out really well for UOFT. So they go in there with a lot of confidence, but don't realize that, again, Braum is there to, Braum has a lot of disengage, he has a lot of peel. Plex does get hooked, he has no flash, but at the end of the day, the turn is very ferocious. The turn is crazy on the side of Warriors, and it's going to be the gold lead shrunken back down to something like a 3K as...
Yeah, I think they'll get another turret on top of this as well. As Azir still in that top lane. Oh, Inexhaustive ended up dying, trying to look for the back cancel or something, and Azir made him pay.
Cassante, dude, you gotta stop yielding, bro. Like he keeps yielding. Every time I look at him, he's on the floor, and it's not looking, too good, especially if you have to match these side lane pressures. And Aatrox is such a menace, especially, with how much free damage he can dish out in the side lanes. And I think Cassante getting more behind, this is not very good on the side of Waterloo.
Yeah, and now looking at the end of it, the gold lead is almost equalized again. It's like 2.5K, little bit of edge to UFT here, but it's going to come down to it again in this next Dragon fight. They're both going for it. Majority of that gold lead still on the Varus here. He's 4 items. They're going to have to look for him, but he has both his sums this time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I think Waterloo has to realize that they're playing. I think Warriors have been playing a little bit too sloppy in a way. I think they are not being diligent about vision, not being diligent about acknowledging the potential UFT has. Because I think every play that UFT has made, it's been on the backs of like CC coming out of nowhere, right? I think Waterloo has to acknowledge that, or it's gonna be another fight where Callum Coy gets jumped on. And it's gonna be over for them.
Yeah, exactly. And now 15 seconds for the Baron. UFT have all the control in this because mid lane is just pushing so hard by itself and needs to be responded to that it's kind of hard for them to walk up to this. We'll see if they even end up contesting it.
And yeah, with the only all miss...
Onet on a little bit of a flank position here. But they are going to end up backing off here. Going to end up going for the Dragon. They just have no vision, no control, really hard to contest it. And Warriors, they don't want to walk in blindly and just get caught out, right? So good decision by them.
Yeah, and that's sole point for U of T, and Azir with Infernal Soul honestly sounds like such a nightmare to deal with, I think. We talked about the balance, the knife's edge of these fights. These are all elements that that can turn the fight that can turn, a winning fight into a losing fight into a winning fight. It's these little pieces of damage, and these little buffs that come out. And I think U of T, if they play their cards right, they might have this game in the bag already.
Yeah, exactly. And now the next objective on the board is the Baron. They're looking for a little death bush. Ult onto Orianna, but she's pretty far back. TP's coming in. Braum is blocking everything here. As now, Inexhaustive TPing in. Braum going in. Everyone trying to fight front to back here as Onet slays blood here. And now, another great hook onto the Braum here. Notice putting out damage from the back. And Lankra is also doing his best, but Callum Coy has more DPS, which means the UFT front line ends up going down first.
Yeah, Callum Coy doing his best impression of a Team Fortress 2 Sentry. He just stands there going, and then everybody is instantly melted. I think it was a little bit hard to see because of how much was going on there, but I think Callum Coy, if I'm correct, he absolutely miniguns everybody on the side of U of T. And with Ezreal not having as much DPS like you mentioned, Baron is going to be going to the side of Warriors. It's a what can I say, a banger once again.
Yes, sir. And once again, we saw Nautilus ult gets used on Plex and not Callum. They're not able to find Callum when they're engages, which means he is able to free hit like the turret that he is. And they end up winning the team fight. They're got the gold lead now, and they're going to be picking up the Baron.
Yeah, the Warriors... You see that Nexus over there? That's not their Nexus. That Varus is the Nexus. Callum is the Nexus for Warriors. If this thing goes down, it's going to be over for Warriors. But I think, the amount of damage he can dish out now, especially he has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items full build, is going to be absolutely crazy. So, UFT have to adapt to this once again.
Yeah, and Plex is on the verge of getting his death cap as well. When Orianna hits that spike, she can really start pumping out the DPS with her Qs, and when they get to that point, it is actually going to become more of like that two-threat game, right? Killing Callum may actually not be the end of the fight based on how much damage he can put out at the start, but now it's going to be a little long at the moment where Waterloo's going to try and get some of these inner towers on the side maybe. Engage going on to Onet, but Zenden is at the front again. Maokai ult coming in from the side, and looks like, he's just gone. Yeah, they cannot push into it. The backline is just so safe with this Braum.
Yeah, and I like you talked about the Orianna as a secondary win condition because she actually finished Death Cap before that play, and I find that play so funny because I think Warriors have gotten a little bit of a vaccine to that bush because I think that's
Oh yeah, they know.
yeah, they know this time. They're gonna ward that out this time. They're not gonna let the Nautilus sitting in there get another hook onto Callum, and I think maybe Nautilus has to realize now that Warriors are not gonna give them as free of an engage as he's been getting.
And yeah, that bot tower looks to be next as they want to continue using that Baron buff until this dragon comes up. But I like the prio that they have in this bot jungle. Maintaining that vision means you're not going to get caught out, which means Callum has to stay alive.
Yeah, and the important thing about this dragon on the side of Waterloo, they cannot burger flip this dragon, right? Like, this is a very, very important dragon. Soul could be the turning point of this game. So I think they have to build an absolutely secure position, vision-wise, position-wise. That was a huge Q onto Lancrease, but
yeah, I believe the ult actually landed on him. Varus ulted and got the WQ.
Yeah, and I think they have to build a solid position first before going into these fights, but Cassandre unstoppable means that Azir ult is going to go wide, and Oda has somehow found his way onto the Azir. The Polar Bears absolutely beating on the bird.
Callum!
Callum Koi is going to live. It's going to be Lancrease and the bot lane, the only ones left. Oda does not have a single care in the world as Warriors are looking to jump onto your Zended, puts up the shield, and they're going to be looking to run into the base. This could be an end angle.
Yeah, Lancrease is going to try his best to clear the way, but there's a bear after him. Run, Lancrease, run! He cannot as Plex picks up the kill. That is the ace for Waterloo. They got the wave in the mid lane, and this is going to be it. In 32 minutes, the Clash of the Titans has ended, and it was such a back and forth fight. But finally, Warriors Gold going to pick up the win against UOFT.
And it's going to be this win that propels them to #1 in their group as the Nexus explodes, and it's GG for Warriors.
What a banger of a game. What a banger of a series. UOFT with a strong showing in game 1, but Waterloo brought it back, fought tooth and nail just through 2 amazing games. I honestly thought UOFT had the win in game 3, but Waterloo finding amazing angles to bring it back, and in the end, they're able to find the Nexus.
Yeah, personally, when UOFT had those huge plays and got the Baron, got the Soul, flipped the game in their favor, I was losing a bit of faith there. I thought UOFT had that in the bag, but Warriors managed, off the backs of Ona. And I think especially that last fight too, there were 2 fronts in that, battle, right? And you can see Ona just absolutely charging into Azir, like wiping him out of the fight, and then in the back line, Caleb manages to DPS and survive, the dive from UOFT. So, that 2-pronged victory means that Warriors managed to secure the win at the end. But yeah, like you mentioned, that was so back and forth. Just like game 2, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was a 7K gold lead for the side of UOFT that Warriors came back from. And like you say, right, that 2-front fight, Callum got some lifesteal. He got so much attack speed. I'm pretty sure that Maokai and Aatrox both got into melee range of him with CC, but it didn't matter. The turret kept firing. The turret has lifesteal, and he just kept surviving. And in the end, he was able to clean up that fight. And with that, CLOL has a victorious champion at the top of the group. I'm pretty sure at this point, being 6-0, you have just topped the group. No one can stop you. And with that, they will come victorious in the group stage, defeating UOFT today.
Yeah, and I want to say a quick thank you to, I know this was a big match, so I want to say a quick thank you to everybody watching on the side of Waterloo, everybody on the side of UOFT. That was an amazing game. I hope that we can see these matchups like these again and again and again because, yeah, honestly, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and with that, we are going to take off. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I'm Karthik.
I'm Jamin.
And we'll see you next time.